Welcome back to the deadline stream, this time at a Double Gameweek 33. We still have a couple of hours left until everything is locked in for this Double Gameweek, and we are seeing a lot of different chip strategies with a bench boost, triple captain, although maybe not to the same extent, assistant manager. Some people are using the free hit aggressively. In my case, that's the only chip I've got remaining, and my plan is to use it in Blank Gameweek 34. And I am using one free transfer today. I haven't made it just yet, but Cole Palmer to one of Saka or De Bruyne is the most likely. I might even take a hit or two. To get both of them in, it would probably require -8 and also selling the likes of Isak, which I'm not a big fan of. So I think using one free transfer is probably the best thing for me to do this week. I do have 3 Crystal Palace players starting despite their kind of horror show in Double Gameweek 32. And I've also got a double up in the Arsenal defence, with Saka potentially completing a triple up overall, Gvardiol and Marmoush, of course, and a pretty decent setup overall, which is competitive, but I think those are the free hit this week, of course, could have a lot of joy, and the triple captain, if used correctly, could also be great. I'll be discussing the best captaincy options, and currently I've got Marmoush there. If I were to bring in Saka, though, it will be a very close call between those two. I think Marmoush has the advantage with expected minutes and also the match sharpness, but that is going to be a tough decision, to say the least. So Chase says, "Hi Dylan, here's my current team. Raya, Munoz, Burn, Gvardiol, Salah, Sarr, Rogers, Murphy, Mateta, Marmoush, Isak. Bench, Areola, Foden, Aina, Hausen. Bench boost activated, 2 free transfers, 3.7 million in the bank." Yeah, if Foden can get one start in this Double Gameweek, I'd be very confident of that being a solid bench boost, to be fair. And with Aina, of course, he's still yellow flagged, and I'll be covering all the latest updates very soon. But I do like the look of your team. I completely understand why you want a bench boost, and my recommendation over the last couple of weeks was to use it in either 32 or 33. Unfortunately for me, the 32 bench boost was quite poor in the end. But yeah, I think Aina and maybe Hausen are the ones you could maybe optimize for this bench boost. I don't even mind Murphy against Aston Villa away. I don't think he will return as big as he did recently, but he can still get something at Villa Park. But those are probably the 3 players I'd be kind of highlighting to replace and upgrade on, but particularly Aina and Hausen, and I'll get to that very soon. Chase also says, "I'm looking to maximize points for this gameweek and also plan ahead for Blank Gameweek 34 with no free available. I was initially considering Foden to KDB Saka and Aina to Connor Bradley. Would love to hear your thoughts." So unfortunately, of course, with the case of KDB and Saka, just like Foden, they all blank in 34, but they are great options for the Double Gameweek now. And I also talked about this yesterday in terms of De Bruyne and Saka being my ideal replacements for Palmer, and it's not locked in yet, but I am leaning towards Saka at the moment, and I do think he'll start both matches and get a decent number of minutes. But some predicted lineups do have Saka on the bench, at least in the first game against Ipswich Town, and it wouldn't completely surprise me, to be fair, but I still think he'll get enough minutes to get a decent return here, and he's averaging so many points per game. I mean, only I think Isak and Salah average more this season. Connor Bradley I do like, at least for the next week or two, but Trent is back, and he could feature even against Leicester, and that would obviously put a spanner in the works. So if Trent gets, let's say, a 20-30 minute cameo this weekend, could he start against Tottenham in Blank Gameweek 34? It's possible. I know a lot of Liverpool fans don't want to see him ever again, but I still think he'll get 1 or 2 starts at least from now until the end of the season. But whilst Connor Bradley is a starter, I think he's a very decent option, especially for the bench boost this week. So just a few kind of concerns about Connor Bradley longer term, especially for Blank Gameweek 34, which is very important for you without the free hit. And I would lean towards Saka in general. Cyril says, "What to do with Dean? Bought him in on the wildcard 31 specifically for this game week, but Maatsen has started since then. Now that Villa is out of the Champions League, will he regain his place?" It is possible. I think Dean will start one game in the double, but I've said this very consistently all season. I would completely skip Luka Dean. He has a bit of attacking threat, and when he does get an assist, he can also accumulate some bonus points, but that rotation with Maatsen has been a headache for several weeks now, and I know for large parts of this season, Luka Dean seemed to be first choice, but I would sell him if possible. I know he doubles this week, but it's Newcastle at home and Man City away, so they aren't great fixtures regardless, and the best you're expecting is probably an assist. That could age horribly wrong, but I think there are better defenders this week, like Gvardiol, Saliba, maybe even a second Arsenal defender. I prefer Daniel Munoz as well, and the Liverpool defenders will be more appealing to me. Easy says, "We'll activate a wildcard this game week. Still not made any transfers yet. Will reveal my newest wildcard team possible after the deadline." Okay, interesting. Likely less double gimmick free players and focus on building a team for the future. If I had the wildcard button right now and leave the app for a while, will the wildcard still be active when I'm back to the app? Assuming you don't close the app, then yeah, it should do. But of course, sometimes with a web page, for example, it can refresh automatically. It happens a lot in UCL Fantasy, for example. But assuming you don't close the app, you should still have it active. But maybe take a screenshot and, have a contingency plan just in case so you remember what you want to do. If I pick a player but not click confirm on the player transfer, I leave the app for a while. Will the player I pick disappear? Then I go back to the app. So pretty much the same thing as I just said. Yusuf says, my team is Raya, Verbruggen, Byrne, Munoz, Milenkovic, Colwill, Konsa, Salah, Palmer, Saka, Murphy, Sarr, Marmoush, Isak, Mateta. 2 free transfers, 0.3 million in the bank. Palmer to KDB or Rodgers. I would lean towards KDB this week. His minutes won't be as secure as Rodgers, but the fixtures are better. And I think De Bruyne will start both games personally, but maybe I'm being a bit too optimistic about both Saka and De Bruyne with their minutes, and Colwill to Gvardiol or a 5.9 million defender. Probably Gvardiol for me. Taylor Rudkin says, have 1 free transfer. Who do I take out of Burns, Savio and Isak? I think I replied to this comment yesterday, and my suggestion was to get rid of Byrne. Now, Savio doubles this week, but I don't think he starts both matches. I don't mind keeping Isak away to Aston Villa. And if you don't have the free hit, I'd highly recommend keeping Isak for Blank Gameweek 34 against Ipswich Town at home. Or take a hit to get rid of more than 1. Possibly a -4, I'd say, to get rid of both Byrne and Savio. And you can go to a Merino in the midfield, or perhaps you can go, depending on your budget, of course, Eze. If you can afford it, I think De Bruyne or Saka would be ideal to replace Savio, but that might not be the case for you. FPL Kevin says, morning, Dylan. Who would you play out of these defenders? Livramento, Cucurella, or Milenkovic? Yeah, Milenkovic for me. I don't think any of those teams will keep a clean sheet. I'll show my predictions very soon as well, but yeah, I've gone for a 2-2 draw in the Newcastle game and stuff like that, and for the other two to concede 1 goal, but I think Forest have the best chance of a clean sheet. Hey Dylan, got Foden on my Gameweek 30 wildcard, and he's been rubbish. Had the exact money for Foden to KDB, so hit the button last night. Foden now dropped in price, so I would have been priced out. Yeah, I think it's a good move. Foden, of course, a bit unfortunate. He's had a few injuries and niggles all season. And De Bruyne, of course, is now pain-free. I think he'll get good minutes in the double, even if he doesn't start both. And I think he's the best Man City midfielder right now. I have 7 double Gameweek players. Raya, Munoz, Gvardiol, KDB, Sarr, Marmoush, plus Trippier, Salah, Isak and Joao Pedro. Glasner AM leaves me 8 Blank Gameweek 34 players and free transfers next week to get to a full 11. No free hit left. That's a solid plan, and I think it's very important to be very mindful of Blank Gameweek 34 if you don't have the free hit. I'm in a kind of lucky position where I do have that chip available, so I'm just focused fully on double Gameweek 33 for now, and I can take it as it comes along, but yeah, I do like the look of it. Woohoo, just noticed I got a nice new blue badge by my name. Yeah, that's because you've been a member for quite some time, which I do appreciate, and yeah, there's like different tiers to it, and you eventually get to bronze, silver, and gold, but yeah, red, black, blue, it's a bit like was it Johnny Walker and all these labels. Ruben Amorim says in an interview he likely will use youth academy players against Wolves since the #1 priority now is Europa League. Makes a lot of sense, but you still would expect certain key players like maybe Bruno Fernandes to start, but will he get a rest eventually? This is a nice time, you could say. I think Wolves could get a result at Old Trafford, and United probably don't care. They're safe from relegation. It's just a shame that the bottom 3, or the newly promoted clubs, have been so poor. Hi Dylan, who should I play, Murphy or Bowen? Thanks for all your help. I definitely play Bowen this week. I know Murphy's been brilliant, my best signing on the Gameweek 30 wildcard, but Jared Bowen has a far better fixture, and I tackle it from that perspective. Morning Dylan, morning all. Thank you Barbary Corsair, and the same goes to you. Yeah, Savio's a difficult one. I think he is probably more of a sell if you can go to the likes of Merino, De Bruyne for sure, Saka, maybe even Eze. But yeah, I think Savio will start 1 game in Double Gameweek 33, but not both. Insane Gamer 7 says, hi Dylan, do you think Saka starts both games? Arsenal are now in a top 5 race with Newcastle being 4 points away from Arsenal. I don't think Arsenal are in a top 5 race. I think because the league has been kind of inconsistent except Liverpool, I do think Arsenal will finish top 5 quite comfortably. Could Newcastle leapfrog them to second? Yeah, but ultimately, who really cares? I don't. And I've said that quite, often in the last couple of months. But yeah, I think Arsenal still try to win the games, build momentum. You don't want to go into that PSG semi-final with losses and draws on there. And Arsenal have drawn far too many this season. They're quite tough to beat, but ultimately too many draws. So I think they will go quite strong in both matches, but they can still play Wanyeri in one game and then start Saka in the second. So ultimately, I think Saka will definitely start one game in Double Gameweek 33, and my gut feeling is that he will get a good number of minutes anyway. So I still think he's a good option. Yeah, I agree, K-Man Corner. Forest are 6 points away from Arsenal and 8 from Man City. Yeah, but even then, like Forest, they've been quite inconsistent recently, and Arsenal haven't been great. You know, a lot of 1-1 draws in the last 5-6 matches, and yet they're still second quite comfortably, I'd say. So I'm not really too bothered about that, but I think Arsenal will still try to go for the victories, and ultimately you want to win every single game, even if there's nothing really behind it. But I don't think Arsenal are in a top 5 race. It's pretty much, are they finishing second or third? That's about it. Hugo says, morning, Dylan. The same goes to you. Thank you very much, Phillips. Yes, the family's all good. Hopefully yours are doing well too. Bilal says, hi, Dylan. I'm on bench boost and have 2 free transfers, but can't fund Murphy to Rodgers. Would you do Eze to Sarr to free some money to do it, or Isak to Watkins? I'm very tempted by the Watkins punt, but the problem I have with that is that in recent games, he has been on the bench and Rashford is playing down the middle. So I probably would just stick with Isak in this case, and if anything, to fund Murphy to Rodgers, Eze to Sarr is probably the compromise I would make. But if you have enough free transfers to navigate in such a way, of course, you say you've got 2. Could you do Isak to Watkins as a 1-week punt, then go back to Isak next week and keep Eze? If that's, you know, something you're quite happy with, it's not a bad idea, but I just don't think Watkins starts both matches. Thank you, Safair. Always good to see you. Hi, Dylan, risk it all and Captain Saka. Well, I talked about this in my team selection, and he's still right up there. I will show you a captaincy list very soon, but I think Marmoush is probably the safest pick, and the community have voted when I put a poll out of the best captaincy options, and Marmoush is the winner. Rodgers, Rashford, or Bowen, free hit 34. I'd lean towards Rodgers still. I know Rashford is quite tempting with the recent form, and he's also a low-owned player. And Jared Bowen against Southampton is quite appealing for a single game week player, but it would be Rodgers for me. Welcome, Pratik. Good to see you again. I'm on bench boost. Would you do Burn to Diaz for a -4? Probably not, to be honest. I just don't think... I mean, could see you keep a clean sheet as possible against Everton, but I think they'll concede in both games, and Diaz doesn't really offer much. Now, if he scores a goal, I apologise in advance. There's not much I can really do to foresee that, but it's just a very rare occurrence, and I think the only defender worth investment from City is Gvardiol. Sam says, hi Dylan, I have no free hit or wildcard left, only the AM and bench boost. If I maximise players this week with double game week players plus bench boost, I'll be forced to take many hits next week. What should I do? Maybe save the bench boost. Yeah, that's a good question. I'd probably advise you to save the bench boost in this case, which isn't ideal. I've been of the opinion of using it in 32 or 33 to most people, but we'll probably see a double in 36. I mean, that is pretty much locked in now with Tottenham reaching the Europa League semi-finals. And maybe if Aston Villa reach the FA Cup final, that kind of cements it in stone. But I'd save the bench boost for 36 perhaps. But the problem is, what about the AM? You know, it would overlap. So you might not actually be able to use the bench boost in 36 without it clashing with the AM unless you use that chip now. So it's a tough position to be in. So I completely get your question. But my kind of opinion without the context of your team is to save the bench boost. Nobody says Palmer, Murphy, Isak to Saka, KDB, Vissa, -4 worth it, bench boost active. Yes, I think buying Saka and KDB for a -4 is worth it. Could you go for a different forward than Vissa? That's something I'd maybe put out there. Joao Pedro perhaps, or Mateus Cunha, if you have no free hit to navigate Blank Gameweek 34. I'm not a big fan of buying Cunha this week, as I think he could be on the bench again, but for Blank Gameweek 34 against Leicester, I think he'll start, and he's a very good option on paper. So I might buy Saliba this week over Chalobah and bench Milenkovic. I'd recommend that. I think they're all decent options, especially Milenkovic, but I think Saliba is worth the investment this week. Hey Dylan, planning to bench boost, have Dibble, Milenkovic, Murphy and Livramento on the bench. Would you take it to bring in another double gaming defender? Already have Munoz, Saliba and Gvardiol. Probably not. Because I'm looking at the other defenders. Kivior could be decent. Timber if he starts both games. Otherwise, you're looking at Liverpool options or perhaps, you know, West Ham against Southampton. So Kilman, Bradley, Van Dijk. I think they're all good. And if you're not free hitting in 34, then I think Van Dijk could be a very good option, for example, to cover the double this week against Leicester and then Tottenham next week. But otherwise, I just don't think it's really worth a -4. I know you're bench boosting, but not a big fan of the other defenders this week. at least the double game week ones. Who do you think gets the most minutes over the 2 games this week, Saka or KDB? It's a close one. I think this could be very close, but I would lean towards Saka. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe I'm wrong. I think if you ask most people now, they probably would suggest that De Bruyne is more likely to start both matches. Funny how things turn in FPL, right? Who would you sell Foden to on a bench boost? If you can, Kevin De Bruyne. Yeah. Assuming you can't get to Saka, otherwise I'd probably lean towards him. Yeah, Saka, then KDB. Thank you, Ignacio. Granadilan. Bench boost this week. Depending on your 50-man squad, but yeah, I do like the look of that. I actually think my bench this week will outscore my Game Week 32 bench boost, but I'm going to try to avoid looking at my bench, but unfortunately I have to for the team selection graphics in a few days' time. So you mentioned moving Savinho. I can afford Rashford, Sarr, Eze, who to bring in? Eze for me. Thank you, Rob. Dylan, like your stream, and I'm sure everyone watching does as well. So come on, let's get some more likes. Thank you very much, Rob Browning. Massively appreciated, and all the best for Double Gameweek 33. Sell Glasner for a -4, and who to get? I have 3 Arsenal and 3 City players. Yeah, Arteta's the best assistant manager this week, but he blanks in 34, and yeah, is it worth selling an Arsenal player? Nah, it wouldn't be, because then, yeah, it'd be a -4, perhaps even a -8. So, yeah, difficult one. Glasner definitely looks less appealing now after the 10 goals conceded by Crystal Palace in the recent double game week, but I'd probably keep Glasner. I think they can get a win against Bournemouth. Against Arsenal, I think they'll score, but probably lose the game. So many blanks next. What's the plan? I've got the free hit, Martin, so kind of boring, but I'm not really thinking about it right now because I think it's quite easy to build the best free hit team. I'll talk about that in a couple of days' time with that video. But yeah, for those without the free hit, this was always the kind of challenging part of the season, you could say. You got a double game week and then a blank game week straight afterwards with the same teams that double, then proceeding to blank. So I think it makes the bench boost quite awkward without the free hit, which is why I recommended using it in 32 if possible. But everyone's situation is different. But for me, I'm using the free hit next week. Hi, Dylan. Elanga or Rodgers, especially long term? Probably Rodgers for now. A couple of weeks ago, Elanga was on fire. Then the injury kind of halted his progress. But yeah, I think Elanga will start the next game against Tottenham. All right, so before I go back to your questions, let's go to some different graphics and stuff. Drop a like if you enjoy the content or find it insightful, and I'm sure you will with the next few graphics coming on screen. First off, I'm going to start off with the team selection graphics from yesterday. So I'll let this play. If you want detailed commentary and analysis, then check out that video, which I published less than 24 hours ago. But this was my double gimmick 32 performance. So on the whole, it was a decent week, but the bench boost was a big disappointment. Murphy was the star of the show. I captained Isak, quite boring and template, but I'm actually satisfied with that return because anything more would have resulted in a massive win for triple captainers. And yeah, Salah and Palmer got assists, same with Ismaila Sarr, but Cole Palmer got booked once again. Livramento, the only defender to actually get something. Both my goalkeepers were poor, and everyone on my bench except Rodgers, who I bought to replace Kluivert, blanked. So yeah, big disappointment there. Mateta being subbed off before 60 minutes on both occasions was a major disappointment, but Oliver Glasner said he will start, and I will show you the quote very soon. But I'll let this play out. The prices also have changed a little bit. So for example, I think Marmoush did go up in price overnight, and there was one more player. It might have been Gavardio, so bear that in mind. I will show you in the next few team selection videos and stuff. But my plan is to replace Cole Palmer, and Kevin De Bruyne is a front runner, but Bukayo Saka is the other one who I think might be slightly better, or at least a more consistent pick from now until the end of the season. So this is my provisional Game Week 34. Game Week 33 team selection with the free hit in 34. Of course, it will be a completely different story. So I've got Raya in goal of a double game week. The same goes for Saliba facing Ipswich away and Crystal Palace at home. I've got Munoz, Sarr and Mateta facing Bournemouth at home and Arsenal away. Gavardio and Marmoush with that double game week of Everton and Aston Villa. And I've also got Bukayo Saka. That is my most likely Palmer replacement, but I'm not ruling out Kevin De Bruyne. I've also got Rodgers home to Newcastle and away to Man City, and Mohamed Salah facing Leicester away. The only other single game week player I've got in my starting 11 is Isak against Aston Villa away, and my bench has Verbruggen, and pretty much all of these fixtures are away from home. Murphy, of course, against Aston Villa away, Milenkovic facing Tottenham away, and Livramento, kind of same thing there really. But with the captaincy, is between Saka and Marmoush, and that's something I'll debate until the end of the deadline. And here are the expected points. Saka has just shot up from 5.2 to 11.7 according to Fantasy Football Hub. But let's now go to the predictions and the full gameweek analysis. So let me actually just read them out very quickly. I've gone for Brentford 1, Brighton 1, Crystal Palace 2, Bournemouth 1, Everton 1, Man City 2, West Ham 2, Southampton 0, Aston Villa 2, Newcastle 2, Fulham 1, Chelsea 1, Ipswich Town 0, Arsenal 2, Man United 1, Wolves 1, Leicester 0, Liverpool 3, Spurs 1, Nottingham Forest 2, Man City 3, Aston Villa 2, and Arsenal 2, Crystal Palace 1. But there could be a draw in there for the Gunners, as we've seen all season. Now, the one player I want to highlight this week might be a bit obvious, and these graphics were made actually before, basically from last weekend. And Everton is the team weakness there. As you can see, the highlighted team with a lot of chances conceded in the middle. So the blue circles indicate the chances conceded by Everton this season, and the heat map is Kevin De Bruyne's touches in this Premier League campaign. So I think De Bruyne could have a massive return in this double. And also against Aston Villa, I think De Bruyne and also Marmoush will be very appealing for that specific game. I'm anticipating a high-scoring thriller, as I just showed you. Now, I also discussed the clean sheet and over 2 goals odds at the very end of my best free hit team video yesterday. So Arsenal are top with a 73% chance of keeping a clean sheet. Man City are second, and we've got Liverpool, West Ham and Aston Villa in the top 5. Despite the fact they double, Crystal Palace are 7th and Leicester are last. In terms of scoring over 2 goals, Arsenal are also top, Man City not too far behind there, and Liverpool, despite not having a double game week, are still in that podium. So it goes to show how good of a fixture Leicester is and also how consistent Liverpool have been. But let's now show you the top 10 captains, which is something I haven't talked about throughout the week. And this is a very, very close one for top spot, Marmoush or Saka. And I've been debating this all week, and these graphics were made, like I said, last weekend, and Marmoush was in top spot. I think the top 2 are interchangeable, and if I had more confidence of Saka starting both games, I think I'd just put the armband on him, to be quite honest with you. But Marmoush is the slightly safer pick. I think he'll also be a more template option. I think the effective ownership will be slightly higher. We'll see how that goes. Eze's in the podium, De Bruyne is 4th, and Salah is still 5th. Mateta, Rodgers, Marino, Watkins and Sarr complete the top 10. If you have any other thoughts or players you think deserve a mention, then let me know in the live chat. But those are the graphics, of course. And before I go back to your questions, I want to go through a lot of injury updates. And of course, for those that aren't aware, this is a double game week this week. Arsenal, Aston Villa, Crystal Palace and Man City are the teams doubling. I talked about the fixtures just a couple of minutes ago in my team selection portion of this live stream. And for Blank Gameweek 34, the same teams that double this week will blank: Arsenal, Aston Villa, Crystal Palace and Man City. So the fixtures we have for the blank are Chelsea versus Everton, Brighton versus West Ham, Newcastle against Ipswich Town, Southampton facing Fulham, Wolves versus Leicester, Bournemouth against Man United, Liverpool versus Spurs, and Nottingham Forest facing Brentford. So let's now go to the injury updates. So Alexander-Arnold could feature this weekend, and Arne Slot said the following: Trent is coming back from injury and trained with us this week. He is not ready to start, but if things go well today and tomorrow, he might be on the bench. First session with the team was on Wednesday. So there you go. Cliver is set to return for Bournemouth. Areola said, I think Justin will be available if he trains normally. That's the plan. If everything goes normally, he is going to be available. Sinistera is not going to be available. The others should be fine, I hope. Everyone is ready to go. And Matoma could also be available for Brighton, Hörsler said. The big word today is positivity. Matoma's back, Van Heck is back. A few players, Igor, Tariq Lamptey and Veltman, will be stepping up their rehab next week. So the message is positive. We are positive that they will be back with the squad so they can help us on the pitch. And Nuno Espirito Santo said on Aina and Awani, we have to assess. They were not with the group yesterday and are still carrying some problems. We have to assess them. It's going to be day by day. So those of Aina, I'd highly recommend selling, unless you're benching him this week and not using the bench boost. So Graham Potter has said the following: slight issue with Wan-Bissaka, just a toe that he's had to have an injection on. We'll see how he is today, but he should be okay for the game. We'll see. Somerville is still training with a physio. He'll be a few weeks yet, I think. It's been a fairly complicated one for him, so we just have to take our time. Apart from that, everybody's okay, and we'll have a full squad for the game. Now, some quotes are very long. I'm not going to read all of them, just the key parts of it. And David Moyes said this on Dwight McNeil: I think he's getting much more ready. He's had another couple of weeks training under his belt, and he's beginning to get short periods of games. He's getting up to the intensity a bit better, but you've got to remember he's been out for a long time. And the next one is by the Southampton manager, Simon Rusk. So Paul Owonachu is back in and around it the last day or two. It might be a bit 50-50 at this point, so it's one to assess today and give us a bit more time to see where he's at. We're hopeful, but it's not conclusive. So yeah, the rest is just a quote on Southampton. Van Nistelrooy said this about Leicester: there are no new injury concerns, which is good and gives us a boost following an improved result last time out. Wout Faes and Jeremy Manga are expected to be in full training today and tomorrow with the team and available for the game this weekend. By the way, it's not manga, it's manga. Apologies. Yeah, this sound a bit weird. Man City have also said, Pep Guardiola has said the following on Edison, Haaland, and more team news. So Haaland won't be ready for tomorrow. I don't know if it will be longer, but he won't be ready for this game. Sorry, that was on Edison. On Haaland, he said he's not training either. He won't be ready for the next games. Akanji and Foden came back. Phil just on Thursday, and today with his second session since Old Trafford. And Manu has had 2 or 3 sessions with us, and I see him moving really well. John Stones and Nathan Ake are not yet back. They're getting better, but not yet. And yeah, Munoz has signed a new Crystal Palace contract. That was breaking news yesterday. And Glasner said this on Jean-Philippe Mateta: he had a time he couldn't train after his injury against Millwall, and of course he lost a bit of rhythm in the beginning when he came back. He looked to get tired. I'm not sure. Some of these quotes do sound a bit odd. During the second half at Newcastle, that's why we took him off. At Manchester City, it was a tactical sub, but this time it was about the 60th minute. We were 5-0 down, and I took off 3 players. It was more okay. 3 days later, we have a game against Bournemouth. We face Arsenal and Aston Villa. We have a quite busy programme, and it was managing the minutes of the players. You could see it was always a different reason, and he will start again tomorrow. All players are fit and available and ready to go. Now, Arsenal have also got a lot of team news. So, Jorginho is not going to be available yet. He is still struggling after that incident. Will he be available to face PSG? That's a question for the doctors, and that's pretty much all he said on that. And Calafiori as well is not going to be available, but he could be fit to face PSG. If everything goes well, I think so. Maybe a bit earlier. Let's see. He's on the pitch already. He's doing quite a lot of stuff, and we just need to make the right steps to make sure that when he's back, he's in a good place to perform. And Kai Havertz could also play again this season. I think the Champions League semi-finals is too close, but if I had to bet on him earlier than expected, I would say yes. The way he's pushing in the gym, you cannot hold him for much longer. And Enzo Maresca said this on Chelsea: Romeo Lavia is back. He's training with us and available for Sunday. We're going to try the same thing we're trying with Reece James. I like to play Reece every 3 days, but when we're trying to manage and help him, we're going to try to do exactly the same thing with Romeo. And Thomas Frank said this: everyone is available that was available last week for the Arsenal game. So yeah, that is pretty much all you need to know. And Ruben Amrim said this on Man United possibly rotating: I have to see it. Players like Dallo, they are always ready, but yesterday he was really tired. The guys that are at risk to have an injury, we will try to save them, so we will see today. I still think Bruno Fernandes, though, will play. That's just my opinion. And with Newcastle, this is an update on Sven Botman. Certainly not this weekend, but he's ahead of schedule. He's on the grass and he's joining in some aspects of training. Maybe next weekend he could be in contention for selection. So we are approaching the end of this segment, but feel free to pause, rewind, and you can check out all these updates on the Premier League website. And Emery said this on Aston Villa team news: the most important for me now is how they are, the players. We are going to train this afternoon. We're going to try to test the players, how they are for tomorrow. It is good news that in the last matches, we've been recovering a lot of players. At the beginning, every player is available for tomorrow. We'll test them if someone can feel something or is tired more than normal. And McKenna said this on the lap. He has trained. I can't say he's absolutely clear yet, but he's safe to train. We've got some judgments to make going into the weekend. Amari Hutchinson not ready yet, still not fully training with the group, so we have to be careful with that one. Calvin Phillips, no, not ready and not training with the group. And then he provided a very lengthy update on Philogene injury against Chelsea, so I'll just read out the key parts. He's seen a specialist this week. As we thought, it's an MCL injury. It doesn't look like he needs surgery, but it's pretty much definite that he won't play again for us this season. So that's obviously some bad news there for Philogene. And Vitor Pereira has said the following. Bellegarde, Doughty and Hwang Hee-chan are trying to come back. They don't have serious injuries and we'll see in training tomorrow. Hee-chan felt something in his muscle and will decide if he plays, but he still feels something. Pedro Lima and Sam Johnston are training. Johnston is not training with the team. He has a small problem. Lima is not working with the team yet, but he will come back in a few days. And last but not least, Marco Silva. Right now, just Reece Nelson isn't available and probably not until the end of the season. Everyone else is available. So hopefully this has helped you. And even some of these, of course, aren't really FPL relevant, you could say, but they have an impact. For example, Romeo Lavia, being available for Chelsea, it makes Palmer a better FPL asset, Enzo Fernandez, and it also shores up that Chelsea defense, just as one particular example. Let's now go back to my FPL team for now, but what an idiot. I went for the wrong screen. In a little bit, I will go through the FDR and stuff like that. So bear with me. And I'll show you the poll, which shows you Marmoush versus Saka, which is going to be a very big debate this week. Greg Best says, KDB is one of my favourite players ever, but just no way I'm going there. Are we forgetting this? Is Pep we're dealing with here? I get that. I completely get that. Thank you, Dave, as well. Yeah, I'm not sure what the hell happened there, but thank you to the moderators for keeping things civil. Let me see if I can also keep things in order. So just give me a second. Let's make sure we don't see that again. Okay, no, it's already been dealt with. Thank you, Dave. Massive shout out to you. You've already done the deed. Looking good. Good luck this game week. Likewise, Affair, thank you very much. And the same goes to Sydney. Dylan, do you think Bruno Fernandes is a keep for the bench boost, or do I sell him for a hit? I'd probably sell him for a hit, to be honest. I think he's quite useful for Blank Gameweek 34, though. But I think United will be completely focused on the Europa League. Kirkus to Rico Lewis? No, not Rico Lewis for me, no. The only C defender I'd buy is Gvardiol. Europa says captaincy tough this week on Saka at the moment, but thinking of switching to Salah. Yeah, Salah might still need to be ranked higher by me. I put him 5th in the overall list. Facing Leicester away, the worst team, you could say. At least the second worst on current form. But yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. Still have the bench boost available. When is the best time to use it? I still like using it now. I mean, even with Double Gameweek 36, that double won't be big enough to have a 50-man squad full of Double Gameweekers. It's not really the case this season. But I'd say Gameweek 33 or 36, depending on your team. It's possible, Safir. It's possible. I think the minutes will have a key part of that. KDB captain too risky. Currently on Marmoush. It is risky. I've put him 4th, though, in my list, slightly ahead of Salah, which might need to be amended, you could say. But yeah, it is a risk, but sometimes risks do pay off. Marmoush is number 1 for me, and Saka is 2nd. Is the risk of having defenders of Double Gameweeks against attack of Double Gameweek clash with each other? Well, there's only 4 teams doubling, so that's going to be a big part. Best team for bench boost? Well, it's going to be similar to the free hit video I showed you yesterday, so if you check that out, it's all provided there. And very shortly I'll go to fpl.team and I'll also, provide a recap of it, but I'd highly encourage you to check out that best free hit team video because, yeah, I think I build a very strong team for the free hit, but it could also be used as a bench boost. All the players on the bench are very strong. It all depends on your budget. You might not be able to afford 1 or 2 players, but I will talk about some alternatives as well. Who's the best captaincy choice? I just covered that. Thank you very much, FPL Diamond. Massively appreciated. I like Milinkovic, but I think Gvardiol is a worthwhile upgrade, assuming you've got the free hit to use in 34. Hey, mate. Hope you're doing well. Sold Livramento for Saliba. Good luck to you this week, mate. Likewise, and I think Saliba's a brilliant transfer. Best triple captain option? I'd lean towards Marmoush at the moment. But if I had more confidence of Saka's minutes, I think I would have a different answer. Thank you, Dave. Milinkovic to Gvardiol, yep. Isak or Watkins, and is that transfer worth a -4? I just prefer keeping Watkins, especially if you have no free hit to use in 34. Best defender under 5 million, and between Kiwior or Bradley. Kiwior for me. But yeah, you've got no free hit. That's the problem. So for the bench boost this week, I think Kiwior. But to kind of tackle both weeks, the thing is Trent is also coming back, and I think he could start fairly soon, either in 34 or 35. So Bradley isn't very... He's not a long-term solution, let's put it that way. I'd start Isak, but I completely get why you'd want to start Murphy instead. Burn to Bradley or Wan-Bissaka? Well, Wan-Bissaka is doubtful, although Graham Potter said he should be available, and Trent Alexander-Arnold is on the verge of returning. So whilst he won't start against Leicester, and I think Bradley will, for Blank Gameweek 34, I'm not a huge fan of Bradley. So it's a difficult one. I'd lean towards Bradley, but not by much. Thank you, Gary. Happy Easter to you as well. Still have the triple captain AM and free hit for 34. Best time to use them. Triple captain now on Marmoush or Saka, or any other player you want to captain. It could be even Salah. And I would use the AM in either 35 or 36. Should I sell Livramento for bench boost this week? I have 4 doubling defenders. Was going to go for Bradley, but Trent is back soon now. But Bradley could... Well, he will start, in my opinion, this week. So he should be in the clear for Gameweek 33. So from a bench boost perspective, I think Bradley could be a good transfer for you. Dylan, are you keeping Palmer? No, as covered before, I'll be selling him to Saka or De Bruyne. I took a -8 this week. I sold Fabianski, Gibbs White and Palmer to Raya, Rodgers and Bowen. Yeah, good transfers overall. I like the look of it. Yeah, I will be making a wildcard video next week, although very difficult, I think, to navigate that blank and also then... I'd say actually Blank Gameweek 34 is probably a better time to wildcard for most people than 33 in terms of, you know, having everything set up. But everyone's situation is different. Yeah, that is the plan. And also a best free hit team video, of course, which is going to be very popular. I'll be activating it myself, so the team selection will be covering it too. And there could also be a transfer tips video, so keep your eyes peeled for those pieces of content. Palmer to Saka or KDB. I'm leaning towards Saka myself, but they're both good options. And yeah, bench boost this week. 436, but I think 33 looks slightly more appealing for a lot of people. MSB says burn to Bradley for a -4. I'm not sure about a -4 for Bradley. I'd lean towards no. I think Liverpool will keep a clean sheet, so yeah, you can get 6-7 points from Bradley. Probably 6, but I just don't think he'll start in the other games that you need him to. Maybe for Blank Gameweek 34, which would obviously be very useful, but otherwise, yeah, he's not a long-term solution. I think Kanate is slightly better than Bradley if you can afford it. Triple captain Marmoush, Salah or Rodgers. Marmoush for me. Hey Dylan, hope you're doing well. Yeah. Sorry, I thought I answered this question. Maybe it's just a similar thing, but... Yeah, so... I think it's a good transfer. Now, Livramento is quite useful for Blank Gameweek 34, but otherwise, I think Newcastle defenders are sellable for the other fixtures coming up. Start Cunha or Isak? Isak. How many more weeks will Bradley start for you, in your opinion? 2. Which obviously will be very useful for those that are bench boosting this week and not free hitting in 34. But, yeah, I think he starts this week for sure. Next week, I'm a bit more conflicted about it, but I'd lean towards, I think Bradley starts without knowing the information of Trent and where he's at the moment. Rodgers, Rashford, Eze, Sarr, choose 2. Rodgers and Eze for me. Is Kiwior a guaranteed starter for Arsenal while Gabriel's out? Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. And I think it's also about building that partnership with Saliba. They are unbeaten, actually, together. They've got a very good record playing in that centre-back partnership. But, yeah, I think Kiwior will start virtually every single Premier League game. There might come a time where Arsenal rest players and they focus fully on the PSG semi-final. And if that's the case, you know, I couldn't guarantee you that Kiwior is exempt from rotation, but he is first choice alongside Saliba. If there are blanks in phase 7, what to do if we don't have to free it anymore? Well, you've got free transfers, right? You might have to kind of roll, be a bit patient with certain moves and not go gung-ho after Blank Gameweek 34. But, yeah, the teams that blank in 37 will likely double in 36. So it's going to be a similar situation to the 33-34 scenario we've got now. Would you pick Bowen or Rashford? I mean, Rashford's got the double, but I'd still lean towards Bowen, I think, overall. Risky to captain Saka? I mean, Marmoush is the safer pick. I agree with that, but I think Saka will start at least one game. It's possible he starts both, and I think he'll get good minutes regardless. So if you're backing Saka to do very well, I don't think it's a terrible move. I think it's a very good one, actually. Emma O'Connell says, Murphy to Eze, Sarr or Rashford, -4. Have Rodgers and Foden. Eze for me. The GOAT says, Yo Dylan, I'm on free hit. Who would you go for? Sarr or Rashford? And Mateta or Watkins, and Eze, Salah or De Bruyne. It's a lot of different ones. But yeah, Sarr or Rashford, it'd be Sarr. Mateta or Watkins, it's still Mateta for me, but not by much. Eze/Salah or De Bruyne. I'd take a punt on De Bruyne, personally. But his minutes are less secure than Salah. But then again, De Bruyne has a double, and I think De Bruyne will get more minutes than Salah as a result. But you get my drift. Sell Barnes to Rashford or start in Mbumo. Barnes could be very useful for Blank Gameweek 34 though, so if you don't have the free hit, I'd probably keep Barnes and start in Mbumo. What do you think of Kivior's minutes compared to Saka's moving forward? Well, Kivior will probably get more minutes than Saka in Double Gameweek 33 and in general, but yeah, Saka is still the preference. You know, for example, I've got Ryan Saliba. I'm not looking at buying Kivior as well. I'd rather buy Saka and cover that Arsenal attack a little bit. Hey mate, would you do Saka and Murphy to Marino and KDB? Free hit next week? I don't like selling Saka this week. And even with Murphy, of course, you're free hitting next week, so it's fine, but yeah, I'm not sure about that. Hi Dylan, should I captain Salah, Marmoush or Saka? They're all great choices. I showed the captaincy rankings recently. I'll probably do so later in the stream, but Marmoush is the safest pick. He is #1 at the moment, and Saka is second, but very, very close between those two. Salah is 5th in my overall ranking. Maybe he's a bit underrated based on what I've done there. Yeah, I like Marino as a pick. He's actually also in my top 10 captaincy options, and he's playing up front for Arsenal. Now, against PSG, we could see him in a different position in UCL Fantasy, but for the Premier League, I think he'll continue to start up front. Easy says, I realised that I haven't bought a Double Gameweek defender last week. Milos Kirkis and 8 Nuri combined myself, 21 points. Yeah, sometimes Double Gameweeks are a bit overrated, let's put it that way. Do you fancy Wolves to keep a clean sheet at Old Trafford? It's possible. I've gone for a 1-1 draw though. ARX says bench boost, 2 free transfers, 0.2 million in the bank. Livermore to Bradley, Livermore to Kilman, and Murphy to Marlon Tielemans. Downgrade Isak to Cunha, JP Evanosson to fund Murphy to Bowen, Diaz, Rashford. If you are free hitting in 34, then I'd say number 3. But I don't like selling Isak in general. Thank you. I have 6.6 million for a mid and who to buy. I have Rodgers, Sarr, and triple Arsenal already. Yeah, you're a bit off Eze. Marino would have been my preference, but yeah. Kind of a difficult one, to be honest. I mean, Murphy, I like long-term. Not necessarily for this week. Dylan suggests goalkeeper. Had Edison frustratingly injured. Yeah, Rye's my favourite, but you can't afford him, so... yeah, I'm not a big fan, to be honest. This might sound a bit controversial, but maybe you don't go for a double gameweek goalkeeper. You just go for sells. If you aren't free hitting in 34, I just go for sells. No, I don't think Dean starts both matches, and I've never recommended him this season. Bench Mateta or Murphy? I bench Murphy. Yep. And also Mateta's in my top 10 captaincy options, so... bench boosting Martinez and triple Newcastle, 2 free transfers. Any thoughts? I'd be tempted to sell Livramento or your Newcastle defender, if you can. But remember, if you are not free hitting in 34, those Newcastle players will be very useful against Ipswich Town, so it's a balancing act if you have no free hit. -4 to move Asensio to Rodgers. I probably would just keep what you have. No so fair, I activated the bench boost last week, unfortunately. Do you think it's worth bringing in Ruben Diaz for Mings? I already have Gvardiol. I don't like Ruben Diaz a lot, to be honest, but he's probably an upgrade on Mings. If you can go to an Arsenal defender, I'd highly recommend it. Is there any single gaming defender you would transfer out Livramento for? Yeah, Van Dijk, Kanate, Bradley, although I'm less sure about him with Trent on the verge of returning, more so for Blank Gameweek 34 than anything else. Then you're looking at a West Ham defender against Southampton like Kilman, but it's just a 1 week punt really. Should I sell Edison and Burn? If yes, to who? I already have Raya, Konsa, Saliba, Munoz, and double City, Gavadio included, and I don't want West Ham defense. I am bench boosting. Well, Edison is out, so, you know, unless you want a goalkeeper just blanks, then yeah, I'd definitely recommend selling him. I think Burn will concede and not do anything against Aston Villa, so probably a 1 or 2 pointer there. So, yeah. In terms of replacing Burn, maybe a Liverpool defender there, like Van Dijk, Kanate. To sell Edison, I mentioned this before, if you aren't free hitting in 34, then maybe just go for sells. Should I replace Isak with a game week punt? If yes, then who is the best replacement? Well, I think the forwards are quite weak at least on paper for this week. So apart from Marmoush, who's the standout, you're looking at maybe Mateta, who's obviously been very poor recently. I'd probably just keep Isak. That's just the way I see it. Is that Ortega or Diaz and Martinez or Sells? Oregano. Yeah, if that's Ortega, I'm trying to think who else that could be. Then I'd say Ortega. And Martinez or Sells, it would be Sells. Not a big fan of Konsa Joshua. Not really. I'd actually recommend keeping Livramento if you aren't free hitting next week. PG Day says, I'm bench boosting this week, free hit next week, planning to move out Burn, but not sure for who. Already have Saliba, Munoz, Gavadio, or Konsa. Yeah, probably a Liverpool defender if you can. Thank you, Barbary. Timber or 8 Nuri? For this week, it's still Timber, but if you aren't free hitting next week, I just recommend 8 Nuri. A lot depends on your chip strategy. Isak or Mateta? For this week, it's Mateta. Overall, I'll be selling Mateta in a couple of weeks' time, I think, and keeping Isak. Yeah, I think Mateta's a good option, hence why he's in the top 10 captaincy options. Nico without Ruben Diaz in -4 bench boost. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of Ruben Diaz transfers in, and I get it, but I'm not a big fan. I think City will concede in both games, so you're looking at 2 to 4 points from Diaz, in my opinion. Yeah, I would sell Kusanov to Gavadio. I think it's worth it. It depends 101. I mean, everyone's situation is different. You know, some, for example, will only have the triple captain and free hit left. So you probably say triple captain this week and free hit next week, but it's team dependent. I'm thinking Burn to 8 Nuri, Liverpool defender -4. I'm bringing Barnes for the Ipswich game. Newcastle look better going forward than at the back. Yeah, just be a bit careful about Barnes because by that stage we could see Gordon start. So I know he's been in brilliant form, Harvey Barnes, but Anthony Gordon is still first choice. As for 8 Nuri or Liverpool defender, if you can afford it, I think Van Dijk would be my favourite. Hi Dylan, how are you? I wonder about triple captain Marmoush or Saka. Marmoush is the safer pick. He's in terms of minutes, effective ownership as well. Or maybe skip triple captain to other game week. You're looking at 36 in that case. But yeah, I'd probably use the triple captain now. That's also dependent on your other chips remaining. Chasing rank, is it worth the risk to captain Saliba over Marmoush? I will not be captaining Saliba. I think Arsenal will keep 1 clean sheet perhaps, but not 2. And Marmoush's ceiling is far higher than Saliba's, so not for me. Saka and Salah, as the Arsenal might very well keep minimum 1, maybe 2 even clean sheets, and Saliba might get attack and returns. Not for me. Just bonus points, I think. Hopefully Saliba gets an attack and return. I'd love it, but yeah, I'd rather captaining an attacker this week. Dylan, what's the most probable odds? Double Gameweek 36. Is Ortega a viable option? Yeah, I think City are quite likely to double in 36. I need to double check the kind of graphs and stuff because it has been a few weeks since I've seen them. But Ortega, is he a viable option? He's all right. I don't think City goalkeepers have ever been that great. Maybe the last time they were was 2 or 3 years ago. No, Marino's not a bad pick. The thing is, though, I could see Arsenal rotating quite a bit, at least for the Ipswich game. So it could be Trossard up front, Wanyeri, and then you could see Saka or Martinelli. And then Marino's on the bench. We saw that actually in the recent Premier League game. Danny says I have free hit for 34, so I can choose Bradley over Bissaka. Yeah, I think that's fine. Bradley looks good for this weekend. I'm very confident about him. Bench 1, Isak, Salah, Saka, Eze, Sarr, and Rodgers. I don't like any of that, but probably Isak. Start 1 defender, Livramento, Milenkovic, or Howson. Milenkovic. Our free in 34, would you take it replacing Livramento in 33, or is it not worth it? If Livramento is starting for you, or you're bench boosting, then possibly. But there aren't many defenders I take a hit for this week. Maybe Saliba, Gvardiol, arguably Munoz. Then you're looking at Kivior, Bradley, Van Dijk, Kanate, possibly Kilman, but yeah, even then I'm probably against that. No, not Trossard over Saka for me. Path says, hey Dylan, I have the same team, just Saka instead of Palmer. Should I play bench boost this game week or wait for next week? If yes, which player should I buy for a good bench boost? If you can, I'd recommend selling Livramento and going to one of those defenders I just mentioned, but if you aren't free hitting in 34, then selling Livramento might not be the best over the course of their next two game weeks in general. Sell Livramento or Williams for long term for Concert? No. Honestly, I just don't rate Concert. I know he doubles this week, but I think Villa concede in both games. Which duo gets more points between Glasner and Kivior or Arteta and Kanate -4? I'd lean towards Arteta and Kanate. How many youth players Ruben Amorim will start? I couldn't tell you, to be honest. Maybe 3 or 4. I think probably more realistically it's 2 or 3. But I couldn't tell you for sure. It's literally just a complete guess. So thank you to those that have been tuning in for the entire stream. There's still quite a while to go until the deadline. Be sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and also hit the notification bell so you never miss a single upload or live stream for both FPL and UCL Fantasy. Check all the links in the description for my Patreon and the championships for early access to my videos, amongst many other perks. The Discord server, FPL League, and Spotify can also be found in the description. And a big up goes to Napstars and Paredes for gifting 30 memberships across the last 2 UCL Fantasy deadline streams. Big up to all of you. And if possible, I'll be reading out the channel members and patrons later in this stream. It would be Marino for me over Savio. Abdul Rahman says sell Livramento or Williams. Yeah, I've covered that just before, mate. I'm not sure if you saw it, but I'd rather keep both of them and not buy Konsa. Who should I start? Howson, Mikalenko or Robinson? Ugh, not a big fan of any of them, but it's probably worth addressing or going back to my predictions. I think that will inform the answer to your question. Yeah, I'm not really optimistic about any of them this week. No, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not a big fan. I lean towards Robertson just for the attacking threat. And Chelsea have been struggling recently. Yeah, Felix has been covered. Murphy or Bruno? It would be Fernandes this week. There is a chance he does get benched. But I'd lean towards Bruno. Sells or Areola? For this week, it'd be Areola. But in every other game, it's going to be Sells. Hey, Dylan, any C differential defenders? Nah, I'd just go for Gvardiol. It's boring, I know, but from a bonus points perspective, he's the best one. Attacking threat, especially when he plays as a left back, so it's going to be Gvardiol. Should I start Murphy or Elanga? That is a close one. I think Murphy could get a few more minutes. I'm going to go for Murphy here. Does free hit lose your free transfer saved? Yeah, if you make a transfer... Okay, no, I think your question is about losing the transfers you've got stored. The answer is no. So that's changed this season. The same goes for the wildcard. So if you've got 2 free transfers, then free hit, you'll then have 2 free transfers afterwards. WP says, I have gone from Foden, Timber, Murphy, and Burn to Rodgers, Kivior, Diaz, and the other Diaz. What are your thoughts? Good transfers overall. I'm not a huge fan of Ruben Diaz, but I get why you're buying him. Yeah, I think Bradley's worth a punt, but Trent is back. He's not going to start this weekend, but for Game Week 34, if you need Connor Bradley, I would reconsider it. You can't cancel the assistant manager after you've activated the chip and made the transfer. It's one of the chips that are irreversible, just like the wildcard and the free hit. The only chips where you can reverse them are the bench boost and the triple captain. SOCLH says, hello Dylan, I need a striker for my free hit. Already have Marmoush and don't like Mateta. It's slim pickings, if I'm being completely honest. You're looking at Watkins, Isak. Do you go for Cody Gakpo as a 1-week punt? It's just very, very slim pickings in my opinion. You draw Pedro away to Brentford or Vissa in the same game. but I look at the list and it's quite grim. So, yeah, that's why Mateta did feature my best free hit team along Marmoush, because I don't think there are many options. Best Arsenal defender other than Saliba? I'd say Kivior. KDB and Kivior, or Saka and Livramento? KDB and Kivior. Isaac says for a -4, KDB plus Kivior, or Trossard and Gavadio, or Saka for a free transfer. Already have Raya and Saliba, and I'm chasing. Probably Saka for a free transfer. Timber or Kivior, or another Arsenal defender. Saliba is my favourite, then it's Kivior. I just think with Timber, he could be rested over these coming games. So I'm also going to let the rest of the graphics play out. I did cover them earlier, so I'm not going to really talk over them too much again. And the same goes for the injury updates. I'll let them play out on screen, so you can feel free to pause, rewind, and see if there are any FPL assets you have that are maybe back from injury, or perhaps they are ruled out definitively. And there also are some injury updates which might not be that important in FPL terms, but they could have an impact on the other really important FPL assets, if you catch my drift. So yeah, that will be shown very soon. After the clean sheet and over 2 goals odds, we've got the top 10 captains. Of course, a lot of questions are coming in about Marmoush versus Saka. Do I buy De Bruyne or Saka? And for the bench boost, which seems very popular this week, do I maybe buy Kivior and yada yada yada? Well, the top 10 captaincy list does help you with a lot of these questions, but let's now go to the injury updates. And also, you can see here the teams doubling in 33, and of course, consequently, they will blank in 34. So yeah, there you can see the Trent update, which I have referred to many times in this stream. Justin Kluivert set to return there for Bournemouth, which is a big boost for them, of course. Matoma could be available for Brighton, who also have a lot of positive updates this week. Aina and Awini haven't trained just yet. And of course, with Graham Potter, he has provided the updates there. Wan-Bissaka should be available, but he's got an injection on his toe. Update there on McNeil, and here from Southampton on Paul Awonichu. Leicester team news, no new injury concerns. Edison is ruled out. The same goes for Erling Haaland. The likes of Phil Foden and Akanji have returned though. Munoz signed a contract yesterday, and Glasner said that Mateta will start. So if I pause it here on Arsenal, so Jorginho's not going to be available. Calafiori could be, he could make a return in a couple of weeks' time. Actually, you could say within the next week, as he could be back earlier than expected, just in time for the first leg against Paris Saint-Germain. And Kai Havertz could play again this season, but the semi-finals will come a bit too soon. And Maresca said Lavio is back, but they're going to try to do something with him similar to Reece James, where they manage his minutes and prevent future injuries. And there are no kind of updates there from Thomas Frank. Everyone is available, you know, pretty much from the Arsenal game. Everything is the same. Ruben Amorim has suggested possible United rotation, with certain players like Dalot being highlighted. And Botman will not be available this weekend, according to Jason Tyndall. And Unai Emery said it's all about the recovery from the PSG game, and they'll assess how the Aston Villa players feel. And Delap has been training, but Amari Hutchinson is not ready yet. Calvin Phillips is also out against Arsenal. And he also said Philogene saw a specialist and he won't play again this season. Vitor Pereira did suggest that Bellegarde, Doughty and Hwang Yi-chan are trying to come back. They don't have serious injuries. Pedro Lima and Johnston are in training, but they did pretty much individual training more so than group training. And Marco Silva said Reece Nelson is the only Fulham player not available, and probably not until the end of the season. Everyone else is there. So I'll also play out my team selection graphics, and then afterwards show you the FDR, the predicted points, using websites like Fantasy Football Hub. So keep your eyes peeled for it. And on screen you can see my Double Gameweek 32 performance, and very soon you'll see my transfer plans for Double Gameweek 33. I just don't think Savio will start both games there, free Ronin. I'd rather go elsewhere. Bebu says on free hit, Munoz and Saliba or Van Dijk and Kivior, Mateta, Watkins, KDB or Bowen. It would be Munoz and Saliba, and it would be Mateta over Watkins. The same goes for KDB over Bowen there. Should I -4 from Murphy to Rodgers or from Murphy to Gundogan? Rodgers. But if you aren't free hitting next week, I think Murphy is probably worth keeping, actually. I think Palmer is a sell. Now, he will eventually come good and score. It has been 12 games, maybe up to 13 now, across all competitions, but I think going for Saka or De Bruyne is a great move. Big Sam says Martinez and Kivio and Saliba, or Raya, Munoz and Saliba. Raya, Munoz and Saliba for me. But they're both good trios, I guess, yeah. So, one change I could make from my team selection that I discussed yesterday is bringing in Saka, but captaining Marmoush instead. I think the rest is pretty much set in stone. I'm quite happy with it overall, and I'm hoping for the best there with the non-free hit team for Double Gameweek 33. And the plan is to use my only chip remaining, the free hit, for the blank in a couple of days' time. So before I go to the other websites, you can see the expected points for my 15-man squad here on screen. And there are some interesting figures here. Saka is top and Marmoush is second amongst my players available. And Mateta somehow still has the same expected points from earlier in the week, 10.1, despite the reduced minutes we've seen recently. But there you go. Nothing has really changed, I think, from the last day or two. And now let us go to the FDR. So West Ham are top, and we are so close to the end of the season that now, when we look at the next 6 game weeks, 38 is also included. Man City, Nottingham Forest, Wolves and Aston Villa are in the top 5. And if you look at those near the bottom, Chelsea, Brighton, Liverpool, Newcastle, Man United and Arsenal, they're in 15th. With predicted points, Saka is top of any player with 11.7. Marmoush is second with 10.4. Martinelli enters the podium for the first time this season. He has 10.2. Mateta, De Bruyne, Saliba, Raya, Odegaard, Kivior and Sarr complete the top 10. With the assistant manager over the next 3 game weeks, despite the fact that Arsenal and Arteta blank in 34, he is top with 23.8 expected points. He is by far the best for game week 33 with 16.1 against Ipswich Town away and Crystal Palace at home. Postecoglou is second, and he does feature in Blank Gameweek 34, of course. Guardiola enters the podium with Slot and Hurstler in the top 5. Then you have Glasner, Frank, Moyes, Maresca, Potter, Howe, Amrim, Iraola, Silva, Juric, Emery, Pereira, Van Nistelrooy, Nuno and McKenna. And yes, Juric is no longer there, but he is still the Southampton manager. That's basically it. You're covering the team, not the actual coach, despite the name of the chip. Now, for Double Gameweek 33 specifically, Arteta, as you can see, big difference, but Guardiola does enter into second place. Postecoglou goes down to third. Then you've got Glasner and Slot. That is the top 5 for predicted points for an assistant manager in Double Gameweek 33 specifically. Now, with price changes, De Bruyne, Gvardiol, Watkins, Barnes and Saka could all go up in price tonight, whilst Robinson, Gabriel, Gibbs-White, Son, Calvert-Lewin, Quansah, Turner, Soucek, Kluivert, Hudson-Odoi, Greaves, Kirkes, Bruno Guimaraes and Isak, they could all go down. And if we actually refer to another website, which I find to be very accurate with prices, live fpl.net, they have gone for something similar here. Pretty much the same names touted, if I'm not mistaken. But they've also put Ruben Dias as a price riser. They're saying goes for Mikel Merino and a few others there. Yeah, Trossard, Konsa, Rice, Rashford, Watkins, Martinelli. With price falls, Cole Palmer. Yeah, it's not looking good for him, let's put it that way. Even though Fantasy Football Hub don't have Palmer as a price faller at the moment. That could change though. But let's go to the poll. Of course, there's a commonly asked question. The best Double Gameweek 33 captain. Marmoush and Saka are the front runners, but Marmoush has 56% of the vote. Saka is second with 33%. De Bruyne is third with almost 10%. And the other option has 2. Even Mohamed Salah, for example, not as popular this week, despite facing Leicester away from home. Let me also show you a comparison of Saka versus De Bruyne. And yes, their stats are identical to say the least. So Saka has 6 goals and 11 assists in 19 appearances this season, whilst De Bruyne in 22 games has 3 goals and 9 assists, 51 shots for Saka, 45 for the Belgian, similar shots on target, but Saka does lead quite substantially in terms of shots in the box. With the XG, Saka's is almost double. Expected assists is very similar, but Saka does lead that metric as well. Only 6 big chances though for Saka and 5 for De Bruyne. 19 big chances created for Saka and 13 for one of the best Premier League midfielders of all time. And key passes, De Bruyne does have 1 more this season. Their minutes though, Yeah, I do think Saka does have more minutes, to be fair, despite the fact he has fewer appearances, as De Bruyne has been kind of a bit part player for the first half of the campaign at least, but you would expect him to start at least one game in Double Gameweek 33. Let me now show you fpl.team. And this would be my team with Saka being brought in. And let's actually have a sneak preview of Blank Gameweek 34. And yes, it looks absolutely horrendous. So that's why the free hit will come into play. And I could actually, I will show you in a couple of days' time a free hit draft, of course. I'll be making a video specifically on the free hit and then discussing some updates I make for my own squad in the team selection. But as you can see, only the triple up in Newcastle looks pretty viable next week. The rest is very average. Of course, I've got a lot of missing players, and I would only have one free transfer because I will be making one this week to replace Cole Palmer. So a lot of work needs to be done, and the free hit will bail me out in 34. And last but not least, FPL Challenge. So I've gone for Raya, Gvardiol, Saka, Salah, and Marmoush as my captain at the moment. What I'll probably do is, if I end up buying Saka and captaining Marmoush in FPL, I'll captain Saka in FPL Challenge, so I can have the best of both worlds, you could say. Or at least I'll get something from one of those captaincy options. But before I go back to my team and start locking in my transfer, which will probably be in half an hour's time, maybe a bit longer than that, what I want to do is go back to fpl.team and maybe go and build a wildcard squad. I think I was asked about a bench boost earlier, so let's actually go down here, load the free hit. All right, here we go. So in terms of a bench boost for this week, I think Ryan Areola is pretty sound. Munoz, Gvardiol, Saliba also looks fairly solid. Let's actually get rid of Wan-Bissaka here because that was an old version. So we'll go for Kilman at the moment. Okay, so if you need the money, you could do Saliba to Kivior and then use that to upgrade Joao Pedro. Now, there will be some people with a lot of money in the bank and great team value, so you could go to Watkins and then bench boost that sort of thing. So this is a bench boost team for game week 33. Of course, ignore the minus 28 point hits. I'm not going to be doing that this week. But that is something, of course, that those with a lot of money in the bank could be able to do. Because otherwise, I look at the other forwards this week and I'm not impressed. Joao Pedro, Vissa. Yeah, probably the best ones. Ivanilsson's not too shabby, I guess, but yeah, it's just, I don't like the third forward this week. I mean, do you just stick with Isak? But if you do, 2 million over, at least for me, and it would require another sacrifice or two, to say the least. But yeah, I have to say, I think those with the money, I think Watkins could be a very good third forward there. And I think having 2 Aston Villa players is probably enough. You might also want to go for Jarrod Bowen instead of Morgan Rogers, perhaps. But of course, that would require even more funds in the bank. But if you have enough money, this would be a very good bench boost team, in my opinion. Unfortunately, though, for me, I'm way off it. The expected points there is 102. It was something similar for my Gameweek 32 bench boost team, but yeah, we saw the end results. I got 89 in the end. But let's now go back to my FPL squad and let's go for some more questions. Glasner to Arteta, yeah, I like that move. The only problem is if you also have the assistant manager active for 34, Arteta will blank as Arsenal don't feature, so you would have to make another transfer. But yeah, that is the way it goes. De Bruyne and Konate or Murphy and Van Dijk long term? I think Murphy and Van Dijk. When will be the next deadline? Next Saturday. Nothing peculiar there. It's going to be an early one as well. I say early for those in the UK. Should I sell Ismail Assar to KDB? I'd take the punt, I think, yeah. Now, in my best free hit team video, I had Eze and De Bruyne simultaneously. So if you can also do the same with Sarr, I don't mind keeping him, but I think De Bruyne is an upgrade. I'm not sure, Punjabi. It seems like it hasn't happened too often this season. It was more of a thing in the last campaign and definitely the one before it, so I couldn't guarantee it. Maybe FPL Newsletter will say something with Marmoush starting or something like that, but I couldn't really guarantee you. Yeah, I think it's worth a -4 hit there, Tom. Palmer to Saka. Suvam says Murphy to Savinho for 1 free transfer given Savio's minutes risk. I'd rather just keep Murphy, in my opinion, specifically for Blank Gameweek 34. But I just don't really like Savio that much, and he's only got 1 goal this season. It's possible Shreyas. I also couldn't guarantee this, but he will definitely start 1 game for me. And then it's just a question of, does he start the other one and get 60, 70 minutes, or does he just make a cameo off the bench? And that's something I'm not completely settled on. And that's why, if I were to bring in Saka, I might just captain Marmoush instead. Elanga in. I think he can do well against Tottenham. He actually returned in the last game against them, but yeah, he's a decent move. I'm not a big fan of Konsa there, Hassan. So I know Burn doesn't look good this week, and Konsa will be slightly better, but for Blank Gameweek 34, if you aren't free hitting, I just keep Burn. Tame says, I use my free hit chip and only have the wild card left. When do you think I should use it? I don't know your team, so it makes it impossible to say, but if you are struggling with 34 in terms of having enough players for the blank, then maybe wildcard in 34. So focus specifically on the now. If you're happy with your team for 33, that's great. You just make your transfers accordingly, set up your team for now, and then wildcard in 34. Savio to Saka, Palmer to KDB, Murphy to Rodgers for a -4, says Ron. My answer will be yes. Palmer to Saka or Marino, Saka. Weising says Savio, Murphy to Rashford, Rodgers. Thoughts? Bench boost team? Yeah, good transfers overall. I think if I had to pick a third Villa asset, yeah, Rashford will be up there, I think. Sell Isak for KDB. Who would you replace Isak with, though? And who are you buying, or who are you selling to get KDB? So I'm not entirely sure about that. I think if you aren't free hitting in 34, my answer is no. Saka or Marmoush captain? I just covered that. I think Marmoush is slightly safer. What is your play and transfers this week? That has been covered a few times, mate. So I'll just let it play out on screen. It's kind of simple. Basically, Palmer will make way for either Saka or De Bruyne. Nothing fancy. And then I'll captain either Marmoush or Saka. But the graphics on screen will show you again. Gabriel to Saliba or Kivior. Saliba for me, if you can afford it. But it's mainly because of bonus points. I don't think Saliba will score that many goals or get assists. Hopefully he does. But that would be asking for a lot. Best wildcard team. It is difficult, I think, if you don't have free hit in 34. Because you'd want to have doublers for this week, but then they blank in 34. So it's a balancing act, and it's a very awkward time to wildcard, in my opinion. I'd recommend doing it in 34 instead. Mina says, hello, Dylan. Good to see you. Would you go for the following transfers from -8? Gabriel to Kivior, Palmer to Saka, and Eddie Howe to Arteta? Yes. Yes, I would. I know it's a -8, but I think all of those moves will pay off individually, especially Gabriel to Kivior. That goes without saying. Livramento to Konsa and Murphy to Marino for a -4. My answer, I think Murphy to Marino, yes. I'm just not sold on Livramento to Konsa. Bruno to Bowen, yeah. If you're bench boosting this week or you want Bowen to start, then absolutely, yeah. Thank you, Punjabi. Massively appreciated. Any team news? From today, no. I did cover all the press conferences from yesterday, so I did obviously read out all the quotes earlier, and just a few minutes ago I showed the graphics on screen and highlighted the key parts, so I'll be going through them one more time later in the stream, but for the sake of repetition, yeah, I'm not going to regurgitate it right now. What is your chip and transfers this week? No chip, and you can see my transfers on screen. Saka or Marmoush captain? I think Marmoush is slightly safer. Now, in my case, you know, with the rank I'm at, which isn't great, I might just go for it, but yeah, Marmoush is #1 in my captaincy list. I think he is probably like the logical choice for those looking to preserve their rank. Savio and Rodgers in, or KDB selling Isak? I don't like Savio. Rodgers, yeah. So if you buy KDB, is that the only scenario where you sell Isak, or do you also sell Isak to buy Savio and Rodgers? I'm guessing that's not the case. I'd probably say Savio and Rodgers in, but I just don't like Savio that much. The Mantis says, hi, with 300k rank in the world, do I risk it with KDB or play it safe with Saka? To be fair, I think both of them aren't the safest picks. I know Saka's template and most people will go for him, but I get your point. I just go for it, you know, with the rank you're at. If you're backing KDB to do really well, don't worry about his effective ownership or, oh, is Saka going to burn me? Just have fun with it. But in my opinion, the better asset of the two, especially long-term, is Saka. So that's why I'm leaning towards buying Saka in general. If you're on free hit, choose two of Eze, Rodgers and Rashford. Eze and Rodgers, which is also covered in my best free hit video. Hey Dylan, I'm thinking of getting De Bruyne for Asensio and Saka for Murphy for a hit. I'm not sure whether to risk keeping Asensio. I would buy De Bruyne and Saka. I think that looks really good. I wish I could do that myself. Man City could double in 36, yeah. If they reach the FA Cup final. Start one, Milenkovic, Elanga or Murphy. I'll be honest, I'd be tempted by Murphy there. I'd lean towards him. I bench boosted last week Joao Morales, and it was a very forgettable one. Savio to Elanga for a -4 bench boost. No, I wouldn't sell Savio for a hit, especially to a single game weeker. But yeah, my takes on Savio. I just don't think he starts both games. That's my take. Abhishek, basically in these screens, I don't have the overlay added because I don't want them to get in the way of the graphics. So don't worry, when I go back to the other screens, I will have the overlay so you can keep track of it. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say to that. Let's also go to the injury updates. I'll let that play on screen. You can see the teams doubling in 33 and 34. Be sure to drop a like. We are close to 100, and then we're looking to push on towards 200 plus. It goes a long way to supporting the channel. It costs nothing. Roman says triple captain Saka. It's a good option. The same goes for Marmoush, of course, but you can also triple captain in 36, and also be careful about your other chips. Will they clash with the triple captain? No, I don't sell Isak on the first alternative. That's why I prefer that option. Kivior or Timber, says Kaz. Kivior. KFC Boy says start 2, Isak, Murphy, Evalnelson. Isak, and I'd probably go for Murphy as well. Duarte says, good morning, Dylan. Should I sell Salah for KDB? No. No, I don't think so, especially if you aren't free hitting in 34. Dylan, who are you captain if you bring in Saka? Probably Marmoush. Probably Marmoush in the end, but Saka is still very close. He was my kind of idea throughout the week, at least for the last couple of days when I made these graphics in particular, the team selection ones. Salah worth selling to KDB for a -4? Definitely no. Not for a -4. Thank you, Sander. No chips are being played this week, Davis. Paredes says, hey Dylan, AM recommendations. Yeah, Arteta's my favourite assistant manager this week, and as I showed earlier with the predicted points for managers, Arteta is by far the highest for Game Week 33, and also for the next 3 Game Weeks, he is still top, despite the fact that he blanks in 34. So big up to Paredes for gifting 5 memberships again. Big up to yourself. Thank you very much. So Abhishek, Ashwin. Well, is it 5? No. Yeah, it's 5. No, it's 10. Jesus Christ. Thank you very much, mate. Very, very kind of you. So Abhishek, Ashwin, Mood Ralph, Man of the Match 10, Festus. Let's see who else we got. Banja G, Bensi, JT, Omar, and Magnus. Enjoy the memberships. That means early access to my videos for an entire month, and also priority reply to comments in the live streams and also the videos. Yes, Paredes has obviously contributed a lot to the channel. The same goes to Napstars. A lot of memberships gifted in the last couple of streams, and yeah, we've got close to 100 members now on YouTube alone. So thank you very much, Paredes. Big up to yourself. Should I transfer to Saliba or Gavardio free hitting next week? Good question. I prefer Saliba. Should I use assistant manager or bench boost this week? I used my wild card last week. Bench boost now, in my opinion. The problem, though, is you haven't mentioned the free hit, and bench boosting this week with a lot of double game weekers and then having those players blank in 34 is a very difficult balancing act, and you could find something similar around 36 and 37, although not to the same extent, maybe. But on the face of it, I'd say bench boost now, but I don't know your team, so maybe after I see your 50-man squad, I'll say, you know what, I'd recommend something else. So yeah, once again, big up to Paredes, Leyenda, as Sefa says. Saliba versus Kivior, Saliba for me. But I did mention, or I showed a bench boost team earlier, for those that maybe are struggling for funds, to go for Kivior instead. And with the extra millions there, you can upgrade other positions like your third striker to Ollie Watkins or Isak, for example. Take out Foden for De Bruyne? Yeah, I would do that. Marino captain risky. Starting Salah, Rodgers, Eze, Marino, Isak, Watkins, Marmoush, Arteta, AM. Well, Marino is actually 7th in my captaincy list, which I'll also show you now. So I'll let these graphics play on screen, and towards the end of this segment, you'll see Marino's position. I believe it is 7th. So, yeah, I'm not against it. Bolg the Villain says, I'm chasing and considering a 1-week punt on KDB, selling Salah. But Salah has Leicester, so I probably won't. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend selling Salah this week, but I get why you want to do that. And I honestly would love to buy KDB. The dream would be to have KDB, Salah, and Saka in the same midfield, and that's what free hitters will have over most who aren't activating the chip. No, I wouldn't do that, MKWE. I think selling Dean is a good idea, but not to Konsa. I think the best defenders this week include Saliba, Kivior, Gvardiol, Munoz, Van Dijk, Bradley, Kilman, perhaps. Do you think Arsenal... no. Awasing. No. I don't like that word anyway. Murphy and Diaz or Kilman and Kuda Szoboszlai on bench boost. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Diaz, but I get why he's mentioned a lot. Yeah, Murphy and Diaz for me. Ziad says bench boost active. I have on the bench Isak, Livramento, Wan-Bissaka, and 2 free transfers. Should I go Isak and Livramento to Vissa and Nico Williams for this week? And 35. I'm not sure about that, to be honest, mate. I still think Livramento is a good option for 34 if you aren't free hitting next week, but particularly Isak, I think he's better than Vissa this week, but that's just my opinion. So yeah, Marino is 8th in my list for the captaincy, so Rodgers is the one in 7th. Then I've got Mateta in 6th, and this list was made before the Wednesday night game, but I'm pretty much sticking with those rankings. I think Saka Marmoush is kind of my biggest dilemma. Very, very close, but because of the minutes and the match sharpness, I think Marmoush is probably a slightly safer pick in general. I wouldn't captain Timber. I think he might not even start both games, to be honest with you. I have said that before, but Ben White obviously dropped out of the squad a few times. If Ben White is still available, then I think he could get a start in Double Gameweek 33. Hi Dylan, how it's going? All good, Walter. What about you? Sell Burn or Milenkovic? And do you think Savio will start? I think Savio starts one game, not both in Double Gameweek 33. Selling him to Rodgers for a -4 is tricky. I'd probably just keep Savio. As for selling Burn or Milenkovic, I'd rather keep Milenkovic. Thoughts on doing Gabriel to Bradley, Konsa, and Murphy to Marino, says Bestie. I'm using free hit in Gameweek 34, or should I just do Gabriel to Saliba and Kirkes to Bradley? I already have Saka and Raya. Good question. I'm very tempted by the Marino punt, but I have a sneaky feeling that, I mean, you could say the same about Saka, but I think Marino could be benched in one of the Gameweek 33 games. And if that's the case, of course, that's a big disappointment. But yeah, I'd probably go for the Gabriel and Kirkes to Bradley and Saliba route. I think that looks really good for Gameweek 33. Would he do Dean to Konsa for a hit if I'm bench boosting? No, as I covered before. Selling Dean is fine. Don't buy Konsa for me. Akian says Trippier and Murphy to Konsa and Asensio or roll. Would have 12 out of 12 doublers, but would probably lock in for a hit for 37. If I do that, surely Konsa's just a 4-pointer this week. Yeah, I don't think Konsa will get any more than that personally, unless he scores a goal, which he did against PSG to be fair. But yeah, I'm not a big fan. Not a big fan of that, so I completely get your hesitation about it. Best 4.2 million defender to Debo. Possibly, it's very slim pickings at that price point. I mean, I talked about Kilman at 4.3. That could be a decent bench player, especially for a bench boost. And I actually don't mind starting him for some people. Otherwise, I mean, yeah, the other options are quite grim, in my opinion. Rico Lewis, 4.3, and either way, I wouldn't recommend him. So, yeah, it's a difficult one. Yeah. I think Todibo is probably the one, actually. Yeah, I agree with you. Looking at the other players, it's not really looking great. Could you say Agbadu for the Game Week 34 fixture? That looks decent, but not necessarily for this week. I think United could still score. They could rotate and put some youth players in there, but I still think they'll get a goal. Kivior and Diaz fine. I like Kivior as a punt, and to be fair, until the end of the season, whilst Gabriel is out injured. Ruben Diaz I'm not a big fan of, though. I think Gavardio is more than enough coverage for the City defence. Do you get the feeling Rodgers is a classic double gimmick trap? Yeah, it's possible. I mean, I bought him in for the bench boost last week and also for the double, so he's already done something for me. Otherwise, it would have been a complete disaster on that chip. But yeah, I think he has been very frustrating this season. A bit like Semenyo, he kind of returns when you least expect him to. Would you keep Cliver if you still have him? Depends on the context. So if you need to start Cliver or you're bench boosting, I think there are better options elsewhere anyway. But yeah, Cliver, he is back now. That will be a massive boost for Bournemouth. Would I keep him? I think I'd still be tempted to sell him to one of those players like Eze, Marino, De Bruyne, Saka, etc. Best Mbeumo replacement. Depends on your price tag. I don't know what you're working with, but I think I just mentioned some good options there now, like Marino. I think they're very good shouts for Game Week 33. Yeah, like I just covered Duarte, it's most likely our captain Marmoush if I bring him in, but it's not set in stone. It really isn't. No news on the C lineup there, Jakob. Whose minutes are safer, Kivior or Timber? I think Kivior. Asensio a consideration, though? Yeah, I think he is a consideration, and Murphy probably outscores him. Well, I've gone for 2-2 Newcastle Aston Villa, so I think it'll be a high-scoring game. They might even both be on the score sheet or get an attack in return, but yeah, Asensio's a consideration for sure, but I wouldn't be buying him in right now, personally. I think for those that have him, you keep. Otherwise, you probably just look elsewhere. Sell Savio to Rodgers and Livramento to Diaz? Yes, but once again, I have to stress I'm not a huge fan of Diaz, and if you can go to Gavardio, I would highly recommend it. Thank you, Mitra, for the super chat. Should I do Savio to Rodgers or Murphy to Rodgers? Savio can be 90 minutes overall, in my opinion. Also, is City double up defense a good option? Long term, I'd rather keep Murphy, but it's worth mentioning that after Game Week 34, Newcastle have some poor fixtures from 35 to 37. Savio, very difficult to predict. He hasn't really scored many goals this season. In fact, in the Premier League, he's got one, but the assists have saved them a little bit. I'd rather keep Murphy, especially if you aren't free hitting in 34, because I think Murphy's a great option for that blank game week. And is the City defensive double-up a good option? Not for me. I think Gavardio is more than enough. And in my predictions, I've gone for City to win 2-1 and 3-2, but I just don't see them keeping a clean sheet. KDB or Saka for Parma, says Banerjee. I'm leaning towards Saka at the moment, and he is second in my captaincy list, whilst De Bruyne is fourth. What about 4.1 million for Van den Berg? Brentford on a bench boost, plays 90 minutes. Yeah, but Brentford rarely keep clean sheets. I mean, they've only kept one at home this season, and that was against Chelsea just a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, it's just not for me. I mean, at that price you can't complain, right? But I'd rather just go to Kilman if you can afford it. Do you triple up on C for a bench boost? If yes, which three? Marmoush, Kevin De Bruyne and Gavardio. So if I was bench boosting this week, yeah, I'd highly recommend it. Would you start Murphy over Palmer? It's close. I'm not going to lie. It's extremely close. I think I'd still... I don't know why, but I'd start Palmer. Is an Arsenal defender worth it even if I have Rye already? I think so. Finding interesting how no one is thinking that Kusanov can come back into the squad. He played 90 minutes in a row before his wedding, and now everyone wants Diaz. I mean, they could both play together, but the problem is also about Akanji coming in, and if Gavardio plays centre-back to accommodate Nico O'Reilly on the left, then yeah, Diaz could have the odd benching here and there, but I just don't think he's really worth the investment. Thoughts on captaining Saka? He's second in my list, so I don't think he's a mug. I think he's a good option. He is lacking a bit of match sharpness still, but I think he's a great choice. Is Foden definitely out? No. And I covered the injury updates a few times. I put them on screen 3 times overall, and I did mention the comments and basically read them out. Foden and Akanji are back. Does that mean they'll start both games? Not necessarily. Thank you, Michael Donnelly. Many thanks, Dylan. Great content as always. Thank you very much. If you've got any question or any other comment, then let me know with a non-super chat, but big up to yourself. Morning as well to Twisted Parky, and yeah, good afternoon now. Isak to Watkins, Murphy to KDB, or free transfers. Yeah, Murphy to KDB looks really good. I'm just a bit unsure about Watkins because recently he hasn't been starting, and it's been Rashford down the middle, and especially if you aren't free hitting in 34, you'd want Isak back for that great fixture against Ipswich. So overall, I'd say yes, but I'd reconsider the Isak to Watkins move. Yeah, I think it's possible, Lager, but as I mentioned before, Ben White has kind of disappeared from the squad on a few occasions. So he played against Everton and started, and then he missed the entire game against Brentford. This goes for the Man United game as well, I believe it was. But if White is available, I think he will start one game in Double Gameweek 33 to build up that match sharpness, get him back up to speed, and that could mean Timber on the bench. Murphy or Bruno? That is a close one. If I knew Bruno started for sure, I would probably lean towards him. Tempted to start Murphy instead of Isak. I don't blame you. He is in better form. Do you think KDB starts both games? The same goes for Saka. I'm not sure. Like, I'm very conflicted about it. I think they'll both get good minutes, so that means one start and then at least 30 in the other, but will they get, let's say, 150 plus? I'm going to say yes, but I'm not convinced about it. And you can't trust Pep Guardiola. Wood or Vissa on the wildcard? I'm on free hit 34. Probably Chris Wood, but there's not much in it. Saka or Bowen for Palmer? Saka. Faris says, sell Livramento for Nico Williams. Good fixtures in the near future. I'm on the bench boost. Yeah, Nico Williams is fine, and even this week he can do fairly well. No team leaks at the moment, Singh. Cunha or Wood long term? Probably Chris Wood, but once again, very little in it. And for Gameweek 34, I'll likely bring in Cunha on the free hit. Saliba or Marino? Well, I think Marino's a better captaincy option, but in terms of minutes, I think Saliba's more secure. I think Marino could be benched in one of them, so that's my kind of concern there. So, difficult one, but I'll say Marino. Murphy or Bruno? Yeah, Bruno, as I mentioned before, but the minutes are a bit of a concern. Saka or Bowen? Once again, mate, Saka, and the messages are being highlighted on screen, so always keep an eye out for that. Murphy and Van Dijk or De Bruyne and Konate long term? This was covered before, Femi, and I said Murphy and Van Dijk. I think you said it the other way around last time. But yeah, the answer remains the same. Sarr or Eze? Eze. Livramento or Murphy sell if I free it in 34? I'd rather sell Livramento out of the two. Wildcard 35, no free hit. Best defender to buy this game who doesn't blank in 34. Will Bradley start both in 33 and 34? I couldn't guarantee that with Trent now on the verge of returning. And whilst he won't start against Leicester in 33, I think Trent could get the nod against Tottenham for the blank game week. But yeah, probably Van Dijk, I think, would be the best one. Then you're looking at Ait Nouri. Konate and Bradley are also good options, of course. But Van Dijk is my favourite, who features in 33 and 34. Diaz and Saka or KDB and Saliba? Is that Ruben Diaz and Saka? It's going to be KDB and Saliba for me. I want to get close to that top 10k today. It's getting on my nerves. All the best with that, Twisted Parky. KDB, Marino or Saka? Saka. In terms of the captaincy, Vishal, I'll show you the graphics again probably one more time, but Marmoush is first in that list. Saka is second. So yeah, that also answers for Danny's question. Kevin says, hey Dylan, been a minute. Bless. Areola, Livramento, Murphy, Konate on a bench boost, but I spent a -8. Rogers for Elanga, Kirkus for Gavadio, and Fabianski to Areola. What do you think? I like the look of it overall. I really do. Yeah. Not many complaints from me. Even Murphy could be very solid. Livramento's the only one I think that I just don't see a return from him, but yeah, is it worth taking another hit to get rid of him? I'm not so sure anyway. Yeah, Vishal just covered that, mate. Double C defense, not for me. Patrick says, should I sell Saliba to someone so I can buy Arteta as my third Arsenal player? Probably not. I do like Arteta a lot as the assistant manager, but at the expense of Saliba, I'm just a bit unsure because you look at the alternatives, and whilst you've got Van Dijk, Konate, maybe Bradley, Kilman, a West Ham defender, Gavadio, Munoz, I mean, those are the defenders you should be looking at, but I think most of them will probably be outscored by Saliba anyway. Kusanov to either single Gameweek / Villa defender or risk him playing. Well, difficult one as well. I'm not a big fan of the Villa defender, so that's a no from me. I'd rather go for the Liverpool options instead. Is Salah a good differential captain if chasing rank? New contract, no midweek football. New contract doesn't really play a big part for me in terms of, oh, I want to captain a player now because he signed a new contract. I mean, we've actually seen a lot of examples in recent years of a player signing a contract and their performances dipping. And while Salah is still a great option for the captaincy this week, I'm still more tempted by the double game weekers. And I also think Salah won't reach the heights, and I've said this for a long time now, of the first half of the season. And I always suspected him to kind of drop off. He has, but it's already kind of done and dusted for the league anyway. But yeah, Salah is a good differential captain. You know, that is definitely true. But I'm not really a big fan of using the new contract as an excuse. Welcome, Baraf. Good to see you. Lau says, hey, Dylan, I have triple captain, bench boost, and AM. When should I use these chips? It is team dependent, but obviously you say you got more or less the same team as me. So if I still had those chips remaining, I would bench boost now. This is the problem, because if you want to use the assistant manager, let's say, for example, you use the AM now on Arteta, then you have to make a transfer in 34 and then possibly in 35 as well. So if you use the bench boost now, that's all well and, you know, good. That looks great. But then the bench boost, you probably have to use... Yeah, it just doesn't really add up for me. You're not going to use the bench boost in a blank gimmick like 34 or 37. 36 is the ideal time to use the bench boost, but then what about the assistant manager? I mean, you can use it in 37, but you are missing 1 week of arguably the most powerful chip in the game. So it's an awkward position to be in. You might have to do something a little bit different where, yeah, one of these chips has to be used in a single game week. It's pretty much inevitable. So you might actually have to use the AM now in your situation because of the chips you have left and the way it's played out. Otherwise, I mean, I'd just say, yeah, bench boost 33, triple captain 36, and AM, you know, 37. But it's, yeah, you're missing 1 week of the most powerful chip. I don't like that. 2 free transfers on a bench boost this week, Gavardio and Alanga, or KDB and Wood. Chris Wood and KDB for me. Munoz or Kanate, free hitting in 34. Munoz. On a free hit, double Arsenal attack or defense? Well, on the free hit, because most people are doubling up on the defense, you could separate yourself from the pack and go for the attack, but I'm going to still go for the double up in the defense because Arsenal have been the best defense this season in the Premier League, but their attack has been very average at times. Kirkus to a Villa defender on bench boost, and who is the best? I don't like any of the Villa defenders. Maybe Konsa, but I don't like any of them. Take out Livramento for an Arsenal defender for a -4. Yes, and Saliba's my favourite. Then you're looking at Kivior. Nauman says, hey, should I transfer out AWB for Van Dijk and Savio for Bowen? Well, I did read out a quote earlier by Graham Potter, which suggested he just had an injection on his toe and Wan-Bissaka should be fine. But I get why you want to sell him. Savio for Bowen, that could be quite awkward, but maybe I'd actually do it. Use bench boost in a single game week? Yeah, that's probably it. But then what, you use the assistant manager now in 33? Possibly. Possibly. Yeah, and then triple captain in 36. That's probably the way to go for the person who asked me that. Yes, Dylan, should I just triple captain Marmoush? I still have my chips. Says Clutch Central. I still have all my chips, all of them. Oh, yeah, that's going to be pretty much impossible. But, yeah. Awkward to say because I'm trying to think if there's any way we could make the rest of them work. Assistant manager now, 33 to 35. Triple captain, 36. Bench boost in 38. Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe the free hit in 38 could look very good for you, but then you got 34 as well. Yeah, it's an awkward one. I think in your situation, yeah, you're going to have one chip kind of burned, basically. Yeah. But I would recommend free hitting in 34, 37 for you, Clutch. Who to bring in, Diaz or Savio? if I had to pick one, it's probably going to be Savio. Watkins for Isak, as a 1 week punt, yeah, but if you aren't free hitting in 34, you'll want Isak back. That is a guarantee. Wood or Cunha for the long term, as mentioned before, it would be Chris Wood, but there's not much in it. Nope, the free, yeah. The free is the only chip I've got left. Every other chip has been used for me. Is Kivior nailed for the rest of the season? Yes. Now, could he be benched in one game? It's possible, but he should start virtually every single game. Like, until Game Week 38, I think he'll get benched once, maybe. What do I do with Savio? Depends on the other midfielders you have, because if you are missing like a Saka or De Bruyne and you can afford them, I'd buy them in straight away for sure. Billy says Raya, Bowen and Conso, or Martinez, Merino and Munoz. Martinez, Merino and Munoz for me. The only downside to that is you have no Arsenal defender. But I just don't like Conso at all. Why triple captain in 36? It's just certain people who ask me about having like free chips like the assistant manager, the triple captain and bench boost. It's about making it work, because I could easily say, yeah, triple captain now. But then what about the AM? You know, it does clash with the other ones. So yeah, in terms of triple captain, if you have, let's say, just 2 chips left, including that one, I'd probably triple captain now. Bench boost active with 2 free transfers, Gavardio and Elanga or KDB and Wood to bring in. Yeah, as mentioned before, KDB and Wood. Hey Dylan, sell Bruno to Saka. Yes. Sell Savio. If you can go to Saka, De Bruyne, Eze, Rodgers, possibly even Sarr, then yeah, I'd probably go for it. Merino as well. Otherwise, you could just keep Savio and hope for the best, but I think he starts one game, not both. Livramento to Konate. Yeah, I think that's fine. Livramento and Palmer to 8 Nuri and Saka for free. Yes. I don't think 8 Nuri is great this week, but decent option for the blank. Yeah, the holiday was great. Kind of a shame to be back, you could say, but there you go. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Why Marmoush captain? Why not Saka? Well, one, Saka hasn't been bought in yet, so I can't captain a player who doesn't exist in my starting 11. And 2, it isn't locked in for me, because in my team selection I discussed captaining Saka, but Marmoush is the safer pick in terms of minutes and match sharpness. So it's going to be a tough decision to make, and probably one I make late on in the stream, but maybe I go for Kevin De Bruyne instead. I made my feelings clear in my team selection in terms of my transfers. One of those players will be brought in for Parma, and with the captaincy, it's between Marmoush and Saka. It's very close, but I just think with Marmoush, he's a bit of a safer pick in general. I'm on free hit, so I'd have Saliba, says Billy. Yeah, fair enough. I'd go for the trio, I said. AM Guardiola or Arteta? Arteta. I have free transfers. Should I free hit? I have a similar team. No, I'd free hit in 34. Because you could free hit now, have De Bruyne, Saka, and, you know, a great midfield for this week and score 100 plus points. But for 34, you might have to take a lot of hits to get to a starting 11. So I'd recommend free hitting next week. No, I just don't like any Villa defender. I'm sorry. I mean, if you still want to go there, then go for it and good luck. But yeah, to be fair, they have kept a lot of clean sheets in the Premier League recently, but I just don't see them doing it in 33. And they blank in 34, so just not a big fan. I prefer Merino over Trossard. Will they play both? I think Merino's more likely to, but there is a chance he is on the bench in one of those games, which I mentioned before. I still have the bench boost AM and free hit chips. How can I use them? I was literally just asked this now by somebody else, and it's difficult. I'd probably say something like AM now, between 33 and 35. But then free hit, I mean, you could free in 37, bench boost in 36, but it is awkward. I'm not going to lie to you. I think this is slightly different, to be fair. I think somebody else said the triple captain, not the free hit. So I think in your case, you bench boost now, free hit in 34, and AM 35. So yeah, that is probably the best way to go. And you could also AM in 36, by the way. Just depends on how you feel. Merino or Savio? Merino. I used my bench boost last week, Adamak. Timber chances. If Ben White is available, I think Timber will be benched in the game. Is triple captain Saka worth a punt? Yes, he is worth a punt, but it is risky. Best second Villa attacker? Probably Rashford at the moment. Bournemouth also potentially get double Gameweek 36 if City and Villa go to the FA Cup final, since Bournemouth play both teams in 36 and 37, says easy. Sandri says, hi, I have Raya, Areola, Munoz, Wan-Bissaka, Milenkovic, Gavardio, Burns, Salah, Saka, Bowen, Murphy, Sarr, Isak, Marmoush captain. Mateta, I will bench boost this week. 3 transfers left, no chips remaining. Thoughts? Yeah, so you could sell Burn for this week and it looks great, but what about 34? You've got no chips left after this. That is the problem I've got, because I could easily say, yeah, Burn to, let's say, an Arsenal defender. You got Saka and Raya, so you got that Arsenal spot free. So yeah, Burn to Saliba or Kivior. Wan-Bissaka, if you are a bit unsure about him starting, you could go to Kilman or maybe a Liverpool defender. Very easy to say that, but it does cause some problems for Gameweek 34 for you, Sandri. So maybe just go for one of those transfers and I'd sell Burn. And yeah, I'd go to an Arsenal defender. Bench boost that. And then you'll have free transfer next week, which is decent. Free transfers is not too bad. And yeah, you can then get to a decent competitive team in the blank. Yeah, I think Watkins will start one of the next two. I mean, he's been benched so many times recently, but I don't think he starts both. Murphy to Rodgers or Isak to Watkins? Murphy to Rodgers. Sell Murphy to Rodgers and Isak to Watkins for a hit. I'd probably say no, and I'd recommend keeping one of those Newcastle players, especially if you aren't free hitting in 34. Hi Dylan, hope all is well. AM on Glasner, I've got 10 players with double game week on only Salah with a single game. Best captain. So yeah, I'm just going to show you the graphics on screen, and actually what I might do is just go specifically to that one. So yeah, these are the top 10 captains. Saka, Marmoush is very close in my opinion. It's extremely close. But Marmoush is a slightly safer pick. I think he's mainly top because of the expected minutes and the match sharpness. Livramento to Konate, as mentioned before, I'd say yes. Bench boosting this week, free next week. I have triple Palace, Villa and Arsenal now. 2 free transfers done. Murphy to Rodgers, and now planning on doing Livramento to Diaz. I'm not a big fan of Diaz. I've said that quite a lot in this stream. But look, it's not a terrible pick, and could he keep a clean sheet against Everton? It's possible, but I think C will concede in both games. Jamal says bench boost active. Should I do Murphy to Rodgers for a -4 if I have free hit next week? I'd probably do it. Now, Rodgers can be frustrating, but I think he's been in brilliant form. Triple captain or bench boost now? Depends on your team. I really don't know who you got on your bench, but I'd probably say bench boost now and triple captain in 36. Thoughts on going with triple Arsenal defense? I think 2 is the best one, and then you go for Saka or Marino up front in the midfield, basically. Murphy and Diaz or Kilman and Kuda Shaboslai. You asked this before Football Life, and I said Murphy and Diaz. Bada AA says, hi Dylan, on bench boost, Ryan Martinez, Gabriel, Munoz, Livramento, Gavadio, Conso, Salah, Palmer, Murphy, Sarr, Foden, Marmoush, Isak, Mateta, free transfers, 2k. Appreciate it. Yeah, good squad overall. I think Livramento, if you can upgrade him, would be nice. I think the rest is absolutely fine for a bench boost. Even Conso, who I'm not a big fan of. Mina says, I stole my bench boost and free at chips. Originally, I was thinking of using the free and 34 and bench boost 36, but if I can manage to go through 34 without using my free hit, do you recommend using it in 36? Well, no. The free hit you could also use in 37. So you can pile up on players who double in 36 and then blank in 37 because of the FA Cup final. So you could also do it that way. Hannah says, hey Dylan, should I take out Elanga for Rodgers? For free, yeah. I think that's a good move. So yeah, Beto, that question was answered. Bring Gavadio in for a -4. Sell Kirkes. Yeah, I'd do it. Big Sam says, Raya, Sanchez, Konate, Kirkes, Livramento. Free at 33, 35 wildcard for the set, bench boost 36, wildcard 33 for... Right, okay, so different chip strategies. What's best? I mean, they both look solid. So in both scenarios, you're free hitting in 33. Okay. I think I'd lean towards the first option, where you wildcard in 35 and set up the bench boost for 36. Kivior Timber, Kivior. Murphy to KDB and Isak to Bissar. I mean, that's your way of funding KDB, isn't it? But not entirely sure about that. I mean, you're free hitting next week anyway, so yeah. I'd probably lean towards yes, but I do like Isak and Murphy for this week. I think one of them will return. Robertson to Timber. I prefer Kivior and Saliba. I think Timber could be benched if White is available. Hi Dylan, free at Gameweek 33. Yes or no? It's a good squad. I just don't like Tielemans so much in FPL. I think he's much better in UC or Fantasy. Timber, I think, could be benched in one of the games, so I'd rather go for Kivior. And also, you've got Ryan Saliba already, so my advice is to go for a Saka or Marino in the midfield and drop Timber. Bench boost active. You asked this already, mate. I said yes. Hey, Dylan, Isak, Mateta, Bowen, Murphy, and Bradley. Bench 2. Let's now go back to my team. And also, keep your eyes peeled on the graphics on screen with the overlay because you could see your message highlighted, so you know your question is being answered presently. So bench 2 of these, I would put Murphy, reluctantly. Murphy and Bradley on the bench. A suitable upgrade for Livramento. I don't know who you have, but Saliba, Kivior will be right up there. Gavardio, Munoz, then a Liverpool defender like Van Dijk. Those are my favourites. You might have some of those options already, so that's why I mentioned even more, just to cover that. If I use AM now, can I buy KDB for the game week and sell him for Saka in game week 35? Is it possible to transfer players? Yes, you can. But just bear in mind that when you activate the assistant manager, whilst your initial selection doesn't use up a free transfer, any other moves you make with the manager will cost hits or, you know, transfers that you've got available. And yeah, you can still make transfers, but it also eats part of your budget with the AM. So you have to be very mindful of that. Use fpl.team, the website, and these different tools to visualize future game weeks and how things would look like if you were to activate the chip this week. And by the way, it is active for 3 game weeks, not just for 1. So you can't use any other chips in game weeks 33, 34, and 35. Should I go Rodgers for -4 and bench 1 Isak or Mbeumo, or not take the -4 and play the 2? I'd probably take the -4 and bench Mbeumo. Murphy to Rashford for a -4, says Joe. I think Rashford will be benched in one of those games. And if you aren't free hitting in 34, my advice is to keep Murphy. Start Murphy or Semenyo. Murphy. Savio to Saka, Palmer to KDB, Murphy to Rodgers for a -4. Yes, is my answer. I don't have any free transfers and no free hit left. Should I switch Glasner to Arteta, as Palace have conceded a lot in the last 2 matches? I think Arteta's the best manager this week anyway, but you would have to change that in 34 if your chip is still active for the blank. But otherwise, yeah, I have no hesitations about going to Arteta. Who else instead of Diaz would you sell Livramento to for free, bench boosting, and 35 onwards? Budget is 6.4 million. I don't know who you got on your team at deal, so it makes it very difficult for me to say, but Saliba and Kivior stand out to me. If you're already triple up on Arsenal, or you're already happy with your Arsenal defensive coverage, then you might want to go for a Liverpool defender instead. Sandri says 0 million in the bank. Oof, yeah, but it's still possible to make some things work. Best Livramento replacements, apart from Gavardio, Saliba, Konsa, and Munoz. I don't think Konsa's one of the best anyway, to be honest, but yeah, I'd say Kivior and Van Dijk. Put Timber in the woodchipper this week, says Gary. FPL Connery says, sorry, Connery. Dylan, I have to transfer Gabriel out to be able to take Arteta. Which Spurs defender should I pick when thinking of Double Gameweek 36? None. I don't think Spurs are worth the investment, to be honest. I really don't. And they'll have one eye on that Europa League semi-final. It's a great opportunity for them to reach a final. VE Portfolio says, hi, legend. Transfer Murphy to Mbeumo, Bowen, or Rodgers. I'd go to Rodgers this week, but Bowen is a close second. No, Aranya. I wouldn't even go for 1, personally. I mean, if you want to go for 1, that's fine, but I definitely wouldn't double up. Not for me. I'm doing bench boost, but I have Bruno. I have already taken a -8 this week. Amram said he might play the kids. Should I just keep Bruno? Well, Bruno could still start. I mean, he seems indestructible. And a few weeks ago, I actually covered a quote by Amram, which suggested that Bruno basically just gets better with the more minutes he plays. And he's the kind of player that always has to start. But yeah, could Bruno get a bit, a rest this week? It's possible. And I get why you want to take a hit for him. But unless you can go to Saka, De Bruyne, Eze, Marino, one of these standout midfielders, I'd be a bit hesitant about that. I think Watkins will start 1 game, Ignacio, not both. Hey, Dylan, do you think Dean to Consa's worth it? Cheers. I'd rather go elsewhere, personally. But if you really want that Aston Villa defensive coverage, then yeah, I think Consa's the best of a bad bunch. Ron says, Savio to Saka, Palmer to KDB, Murphy to Rodgers -4. Yep, you said that a few times. I said it's good a few times. That's really all that needs to be said. Savio to Bowen for free. Close one, because I think Savio could get one start and then get a cameo off the bench in the other. So for Double Gameweek 33, he could still outscore Jared Bowen, but I'd probably lean towards buying Bowen. I think Marino starts one game. I'm not sure about both. Yeah, Kiwior should start most games, maybe one benching. I couldn't tell you when exactly, probably around the PSG game, but it's just a guess. 4.1 million defender, Agbadu, I guess, for Gameweek 34. I'm not a big fan. Yeah, I did cover this before, Ezra, with the injury updates, so feel free to rewind and pause. I'll go through the graphics probably one more time, but yeah, he's going to start. Glasner said he's going to start yesterday, so it's just really a tactical decision against Man City, and it was around the 60th minute. Ivan says Saka or KDB. My preference is Saka right now. Do you think Saka, Arsenal keep a clean sheet against Ipswich? I went for 2-0 Arsenal in that game, but I could see a 1-1 in terms of Arsenal this week against either Palace or Ipswich, because that's been their kind of common scoreline this season. But yeah, I'll lean towards yes. Thoughts on Salah captaincy as a differential? He is fifth in my list. He's still the best single gameweek option. I just don't think his form has been great. Mark still says, who would you personally pick, Saka or Marmoush? Probably Marmoush at the moment. That's why he's first in my list. Kirkes, go Bradley for bench boost. Yeah, that's fine. But Bradley might be a concern for you in 34 because Trent is on the verge of returning. Rania says, if you had to pick one of O'Reilly, Kovacic, Mateus Nunes, and Rico Lewis for this game, who would you pick? Well, they're all classified as midfielders except Lewis, right? And the only midfielder I want from City right now is De Bruyne. So probably Lewis, but I just don't think he starts both games. Eze to burn from -4? No. Sarr to KDB from -4? I'd be tempted, very tempted, but I think Sarr's worth keeping and not selling for a hit. Would he take a one-gameweek punt on Watkins? Probably not, because I think he starts one game, not both. Foden to Bruno or Bowen? Bowen. But my recommendation is Saka or De Bruyne instead. Okay, so what I'm going to do is actually put a poll out on my channel. And I did go through different screens. I might do that one more time just for those that are tuning in late. Drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, especially if you find this useful or entertaining. So this costs nothing. It does boost us, of course, and the algorithms are always, you know, there to be targeted. So thank you very much to those that have liked, commented, also the members and patrons. A big up to Paredes for gifting 10 more memberships today, and also for doing it in the last two UCL Fantasy deadline streams. The same goes to Napstars as well. Abhishek says, wildcard 35, no free hit. Who should I prioritize selling out of Castagna and Greaves? Probably Greaves. I think both of them are easy sells though. Let me put this poll out, and then I'm going to go for some different screens. So, who is the best Palmer replacement? Yeah, JR21, you've asked this question a lot. I'm not going to answer it again. Sorry, mate. So let's put De Bruyne, Saka, and let's put Marino. Yeah, we'll do that. And anyone else? Not really. All right, we'll do that. I think these options are probably enough. Cliver and Mbumo to Bowen and Rogers. Yeah, I'd go for it. Trossard or Eze? Eze. Isak and Borro to Gavardio and Wood. Not sure about selling Isak. I think Borro to Gavardio is a great upgrade, but I'm assuming you need the money from the Isak move. But if you're not free hitting in 34, mate, I'd definitely not sell Isak. Anything Anna says, Gabriel, Burn, Elanga to Kiwior, Konate, and Bowen. Have to sell Isak for funds. Who would you buy, Watkins or Wood? Watkins, and hope for the best in terms of minutes this week. Is it worth downgrading Timber, Kiwior in order to afford Rogers for the bench boost? Yeah, it depends who you're buying or who you're selling for Rogers. But yeah, ultimately, I think Timber could be benched anyway in Double Gameweek 33. So that's not too shabby. I'm just having one eye on Twitter to see if there are any updates. So let's see. Don't see anything right now, but yeah, probably I don't expect to see anything before the deadline. Mateta or Marmoush as captain? Marmoush. Mateta is still in the top 10, but he's 6th in my list and he could arguably be lower. So Larkin says, well, the possible Gameweek phase 6 doubles. Let me just see, I just lost the chat, but yeah. So Aston Villa could face Bournemouth away and Tottenham at home. Man City could face Southampton away and Bournemouth at home. Spurs could face Crystal Palace at home, Aston Villa away. Bournemouth facing Aston Villa at home, Man City away. Those are the most likely doubles. Then in terms of the ones that are probably less likely to happen, Crystal Palace could face Spurs away and Wolves at home. Wolves could face Brighton at home and Crystal Palace away. Nottingham Forest are possibly going to face Leicester at home and West Ham away. And West Ham would face Man United away and Forest at home. Remember, not all of them will happen at the same time. But yeah, the most likely are for Aston Villa, Man City, Tottenham and Bournemouth. Murphy to Lewis Skelly to fund Rodgers. Not for me. I mean, Lewis Skelly, if he was a defender, he'd be a very appealing option. But even to fund Rodgers, I'm not sure about that. And if you're not free hitting in 34, I have to repeat, the likes of Murphy, Isak and Newcastle players are very useful indeed. Should I free hit? I don't know your team, Sahil, so impossible for me to say. If you've got a similar team to me, I'd recommend using it next week because you'll find yourself in a very precarious situation. All right, so what I'm going to do is go through the different graphics again. So people have been asking me about my transfers, and I have covered that before in my team selection yesterday and also in this stream. But just for those that aren't aware, these are the graphics, and feel free to pause and rewind whenever you want to. Bernardo says, hey, Dylan, triple captain Marmoush or Saka? Marmoush is first in my captaincy list, and I did make that at the beginning of last week. As for my team selection, I did have Saka as my provisional captain, but I did say specifically in that video that it's a very close call, and I just think Marmoush is slightly safer. Given my rank and the way things have been going, and also I'm an Arsenal fan and yada yada yada, I might just go for Saka in the end, but I think Marmoush is probably slightly safer in general. From a fixture perspective, it's close, but you'd probably say Arsenal have a slightly better double than Man City. So very, very close one, but I think Marmoush for those that are looking to hold and preserve their rank. And would you bench Isak for Bowen? I'd lean towards Bowen, yeah. But I do like Isak and Murphy this week. Yeah, you can see my transfer plans on screen hype, so yeah, no need to answer that. Welcome to Fidelis as well. I'm 80 points behind the league leader, and I have triple captain available with pretty much a planned team till Gameweek 38, keeping reasonable differentials. Should I use triple captain this Gameweek on Saka Marmoush or wait for 36? Well, I just mentioned the possible doubles in 36, so if you like the sound of some of those, I think saving the triple captain for then is pretty reasonable. But I think in your situation, and also given the options this week, I'd probably triple captain now. Murphy to Elanga over Rodgers on bench boost. I'm chasing, and Elanga has Tottenham this week and good fixtures coming up. Yeah, I think that's a pretty decent move. Now, Elanga's minutes could be managed, though. He has just come off the back of an injury, so bear that in mind. Let's now go to the Gameweek analysis so you can see my predictions on screen, and that can inform some of your questions and also some of the opinions I've got. Triple Newcastle, Livramento, Isak and Murphy plus Sells. Should I bench boost? It's not amazing, but that'll probably outscore my bench boost from last week quite comfortably. So yeah, I think the bench boost can be a hindrance, so getting it out of the way is not a bad idea, and I think you can get a decent score from those 4 players. Rashford or Bowen for free? It's close. I would lean towards Bowen because I think Rashford could be benched in one of those games anyway. Hello, Dylan. Or hola, Dylan. Apart from the double Gameweek players, what forward would you transfer in this game week? I don't like many of the forwards. Gakpo, you know, if you kind of really want to risk it. Chris would maybe, but otherwise you're looking at Joao Pedro and Visser. Yeah, it's kind of slim pickings in my opinion. Strand Larson or Murphy? Murphy. I did Matoma to Rodgers, by the way, says Sahil. Should I free hit with this? Pickford, Munoz, Konsa, Reina, Nuri, Rodgers, Salah, Palmer, Saka, Gibbs White, Isak, Visser. I probably would free hit, to be fair, but the problem is Gameweek 34. If you've got a lot of players featuring then it's not too shabby. Double Arsenal mid, Saka and Marino. That's a nice differential, especially for those using a chip this week, like the free hit. Micah says, I'm thinking of doing Howe to Arteta, Gabriel to Cavadio, and Cliver to Rogers for a -8. What do you think? Or should I only do the first two for a -4? Probably just the first two for a -4. Hi Dylan, should I do a -8 and bench boost, or no minus and triple captain Marmoush? No minus and triple captain Marmoush. Dylan, I need a 4.3 million defender. Kilman, just for this week only though. Would you do Palmer and Livramento to Saka and Bradley, or De Bruyne and Kanate? It's very close. And Kanate is more nailed on than Bradley long term, but I would go for Saka and Bradley for now. Yeah, Session has been very impressive when he's getting the minutes. Even off the bench, he's making an impact, getting goals and assists. But I just don't like Fulham's fixtures at the moment. I mean, that does turn 34 to be fair. So on the free next week, you could consider him, but I think Robertson will always be the preference in that Fulham defence. So let me now show you the injury updates, and you can also see the teams doubling this week and blanking in 34. Not for me there, Badra. I would not buy Watkins for a -4 here at the expense of Isak. Yeah, Paredes, you will see the quote now very shortly. I'll try to pause it there so you can have time to read it, but you can also pause it yourself. But Mateta will start. That's what Glasner said. And he said for different reasons he's been subbed off early in the last couple of matches. KDB and Arteta, or Saka and Guardiola. That's close. I would lean towards KDB and Arteta here. Bowen or De Bruyne? De Bruyne. Yep, 20 minutes to lock in. We're getting very close. So, yeah, once we get to the Crystal Palace, there we go. So you can read the quotes here. He talked about Mateta lacking rhythm after the injury against Millwall. He looked to get tired. So he was looking tired, I'm guessing that's what it means, during the second half against Newcastle. That's why we took him off. At Man City, it was a tactical sub, but this time it was about the 60th minute. We were 5-0 down, and I took off 3 players. It was more okay 3 days later with a game against Bournemouth. We face Arsenal and Aston Villa. We have quite a busy programme, and I was managing the minutes of the players. You could see it was always a different reason, and he will start again tomorrow. All players are fit and available and ready to go. So I'll let the rest play out. I have covered them before as well. Yeah, that's just not going to be answered, mate. I'm sorry. If you're going to spam like that, no chance. Just letting you know for next time. Let's see if my actual chat is going to load up here. All right, let's answer some different questions and also go back to my team because I want to lock in my squad fairly shortly. So this is my current squad. No bench boost, no chip active. I used it last week and it was an absolute horror show, unfortunately, with Milenkovic and Saliba's clean sheets wiped out towards the end. So yeah. If we go to the transfer section, Palmer out for either Saka or De Bruyne is the most likely. And I am leaning towards Bukayo Saka. That will leave me with 0.5 million in the bank. And we'll see how that goes. Yeah, no updates on X as far as I'm aware. Let's see. Yeah, absolutely nothing. Okay. My phone's going to run out of battery very soon. Good luck, everyone, for the game week. No worries, Wei saying all the best to you, and we can talk later in the Discord server. Thank you, Feifei, for the super chat. Evanilson and De Bruyne, or Watkins and Rogers, or Pedro and De Bruyne. I'm on a bench boost. That is an extremely close one. I like all of those duos, but my favourite might have to be, I think, Watkins and Rogers. Now, I don't think Watkins starts both matches, but I think he gets one start and a good cameo in the other game. But, yeah. If Saka was included in one of the other dilemmas, I think I'd probably lean towards that. But, yeah, I think Watkins and Rogers. Kilman in, Livramento out. Yeah, I think for a 1 week punt, that's fine. But remember, if you aren't free hitting in 34, you will actually look at Livramento and think, you know what, he's a very good option. Ignacio says, necesito tu ayuda. Sí, como dije recién, lo preguntaste en inglés y te dije, para mí Killman es el mejor, que cuesta 4.3 millones. Sí, no tiene una doble fecha, desafortunadamente, pero no creo que haya muchos jugadores de ese precio que tiene doble fecha ahora. Si no, sí, empieza a ser muy difícil. A ver si puedo encontrar a alguien. Pero sí, para mí Killman, jugando contra Southampton, es la mejor opción que tienes. A ver si puedo encontrar a alguien. Sí, que tiene doble fecha, no creo. No creo que será posible. Sí, Killman para mí está bastante bien ya. Sí, yo creo que es la mejor opción, Killman. Porque si no, tienes a Rico Lewis o Pau Torres, pero no creo que van a jugar todos los partidos. What if I'm using free next week? Isak and Porro, Gavadio Wood. Yeah, I get that, but overall I lean towards yes. It's just with Chris Wood this week, I'm not a massive fan. Feifei says Saka is in all of the options. Let me get back up to your thing. Yeah, no, what I meant was that's absolutely fine. And by the way, that's a really good set of transfers in general. But yeah, it's just I went for the Watkins-Rogers route because compared to KDB, I probably do rank Saka a little bit high in general. And the vote does, and the poll does reflect that, of course, that we see on screen now. I don't think Timber starts both games, mate. Afnan, I don't. Salah's my captain, says Nasi. That could be a great shout this week. I really do think that. I'll probably captain Marmoush in the end over Saka, but it's a very, very close call. Ashwin says Gabriel to Saliba for a -4 or Matoma to Rashford for a -8. I'd do both, I think, for a hit. But if I had to pick one of them, it's definitely Gabriel to Saliba. Bench 1, Castagna, Colwill, Share. I think all of them are benchable this week, to be fair. Probably Colwill. What do you think, Munoz or Bradley and Rodgers or De Bruyne? Munoz, and I would go for De Bruyne. Yeah, Eugene, this has been covered a lot, literally just a few minutes ago as well. I think Marmoush is the best captain, Saka second, but for those chasing, I actually don't really mind going for the De Bruyne or Saka kind of punt. I think that could work very well. Yeah, there's no updates. I just don't think it's really worth checking at this point. Yeah. Cash to Kivior. I like that move. Really good. Hi, Dylan. If you had Asensio, would you switch to Roger Savio for a hit? I probably would keep Asensio in this case. Best 1 week punt, keeper for bench boost, Areola. Bench boost with Pope, Isak, Murphy, Kanate on the bench. It's solid. I think Isak, Murphy, and Kanate are really good. Pope, not so much, but that's going to outscore my bench boost from last week, that's for sure. I have Aina, I need to sell. Have Gavadio, Saliba, plus Arsenal, Munoz, plus Free Palace, Burn. Who to get? Diaz. I don't trust Consort, and I'm bench boosting. I don't trust Consort either. We're in the same boat there. Yeah. Ruben Diaz I'm also not a big fan of, but I get why you want to go for that double gameweek defender. If you have an Arsenal spot available, I'd just go to an Arsenal defender there, Twisted Parky. Ezra says this, no free hit. Sell Murphy to Rodgers. We'll have 8 players next week, and free transfers need to transfer at Saka or Saliba next week. Have Raya thoughts? Yeah, that looks good to me. And you might want to buy Murphy back for Gameweek 34, but then you just keep him for the rest of the season if that's the case. Consort or Bradley, I have 10 doublers already for bench boost. I actually prefer Bradley this week, but Trent is back and he will probably start in either 34 or 35, so Bradley might not be that useful to you beyond this double game week. Ruben Diaz or Kanate bench boost, that's close. I'd lean towards Kanate. Timber or Kivior for Gabriel? Kivior. Start Kirkes, Burn or Williams. or probably Kirkes. Footy LM says bench free start 2. Well, I'd start Munoz and Isak. Should I captain Saka or is it risky? It's a great move. It is slightly risky, but that doesn't mean it's a bad option. Pope to Ortega, I got Raya and I'm bench boosting. I mean, that's fine, I guess, but with City, I wouldn't recommend a defensive double up. I'd rather go for Areola instead. How many minutes does Bradley get this week? I think 70 plus. Of course, if he gets subbed off 460, that's obviously the nightmare scenario, and it's possible. But yeah, I think he'll get enough minutes for a clean sheet. I don't have an Arsenal spot left. Just go Diaz, probably, but I'm not a big fan. Kanate or Bradley long term? Kanate. The only downside is he's very injury prone, but Trent is obviously on the verge of returning. Sarr for Rodgers, already have Rashford. Yeah. I'd recommend keeping Sarr. I've said that before, but I get why you want to go for Rodgers. I'd probably just keep Sarr though. Sell Elanga or Livramento. I'd rather sell Livramento. So, sorry, start Milenkovic or Aït-Nouri. Milenkovic. Start Isak or Murphy. I'm starting Isak personally. Rodgers or Sarr. Rodgers, but I'm not sure if it's really worth a transfer one way or the other. I already play my wildcard, John. I've only got the free hit available. Hi, Dylan. Would you bench boost with Areola, Solanke, Murphy, and Livramento? It's a decent bench boost. I probably would. That's just been covered, mate. Payman Armin says, hi, Savio, Livramento, Murphy, Consa. Should I do Savio to Rodgers and Livramento to Ruben for a -4 or Murphy to Rodgers for free? I'd go for the free transfer of Murphy to Rodgers, and you might want him back for Gameweek 34. I think Sarr and Mateta will start both games, but we'll probably see early subs once again. Maybe not before 60, but around 65, 70, basically. Gabriel to Saliba, Palmer to Saka, and Kirkes to 4.8 million defender, then bench boost with Murphy, Areola, Livramento, and Newcastle defender. Looks good to me. I mean, you said Livramento and... Oh, sorry, new defender, not Newcastle defender. Yeah, that looks good. I think Livramento is the only kind of weak link on your bench, but... yeah, that's still a very solid bench boost. I think they'll do well. All right, I'm going to make my transfer. I'm going to buy Saka for, for Palmer. Very standard stuff. And now it's just about the captaincy. Marmoush versus Saka. Since I'm getting a lot of questions about it, and I've shown the graphics dozens of times, and I've answered hundreds of questions about it, but yeah, I'm going to show you a Saka versus Marmoush captaincy poll, which I've also provided on my channel, but this will kind of be like an updated version, seeing if there are any differences in opinion. So, who will be your... Double Gameweek 33 captain? So let's go for Saka, Marmoush. Let's also put De Bruyne. Let's put Salah in there. Why not? I think it'll be a bit more popular than Eze. Best burn replacement, already own Triple Palace, Arsenal, Villa, and can't afford Gavardio. Yeah, the defenders are quite scarce this week. That's why I'd probably recommend a Liverpool option like Van Dijk. If not, if you can't afford him, maybe go for Kanate. Which Villa mid to buy this week? My favourite is Rodgers, but if you are in the mood for a punt, I'd probably go for Rashford. I have Barnes, keep him, or Rodgers swap free transfer. I'd go to Rodgers. You might want Barnes back though, if you aren't free hitting next week. Varnett says, should I take Savio for a hit? Take him out for a hit, depends who you can buy, but assuming you can go to Saka, De Bruyne, Marino, Eze, one of these midfielders I've discussed, then yeah, I take the hit and sell him, but it is risky. Gavardio or Arsenal defender? Arsenal defender. Yeah, no City leaks as far as I'm aware. Cliver or Palmer? I'd go for Palmer. Insane Gamer 7 says, I'm going Salah captain, or the best. Livramento to Kivior or Roll? I'd go to Kivior. Ezra says Saka for sure. And in this poll, Marmoush is leading once again. Quite similar to the poll I put out on my channel, but Saka's a little bit closer this time, I'd say. Diaz and Rashford or Van Dijk and KDB? I would go for Van Dijk and KDB. Best burn replacement, already on Triple Palace, Arsenal and Newcastle. I just covered that. I went for a -8. I'm still with the wildcard, triple captain and bench boost. What should I do this week? I have no bench. Valdimarsson, Ahmad, Hall and Aina. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't bench boost that. Let me put it that way. So maybe you triple captain this week, you wildcard in 34, and you triple captain in 36. I think. Oh, sorry, you bench boost in 36. That's probably the way you want to go. Everyone's situation is different. Abhishek says, I only have 5 double gimmick players plus Glasner, no free transfer, and I don't want to take hits as I don't have the free hit left. That's the problem, of course, for those without that chip, balancing double gimmick Fae 3 and blank gimmick Fae 4. The same team's doubling, then go on to blank. So I get why you're in that situation. Which manager to pick? I think Arteta. MMK says, hi Dylan, just tuning in. Saka in for Matoma for -4? Yes. Start Bruno Fernandes or Isak? Isak for me. Yeah, I did say that, the GOAT. I did say it. Van Dijk and KDB. Marco107 says Saka, Murphy, Livramento to KDB, Rashford and Kivior. I don't like the Saka to KDB move. So that's probably a no from me. No City leak as far as I'm aware. Who to captain? One of Marmoush or Saka. If you're chasing, you'd probably be tempted to go for Saka. Let me actually remember to vice captain him at least. Yeah, that is my current squad. There could be a late change. I just go gung-ho and yeah, also go for my Arsenal roots and go for Saka, but otherwise I think I'm just sticking with this, to be fair. Bench boost this week. I think for a lot of people it looks solid, but everyone's situation is different. Ulysses United says, hola Dylan, ¿vale la pena un -4 para cambiar a Muñoz por Timber? Creo que no, y es posible que Timber no jugará ambos partidos, y White va a empezar un partido en contra Ipswich Town o Crystal Palace, así que para mí no vale el -4. Yeah, Rob, no need to spam the chat, mate. It's literally no need at all. I provided the captaincy rankings earlier. Salah was 5th, Watkins was slightly lower, and Sarr was 10th. So that's the order I would rank them. Should I triple captain this week? I don't know what your other chips are, Batman, but it's not a bad time to triple captain, that's for sure. I think Timber will start one game, not both, in Double Gameweek 33, as I mentioned in Spanish just a minute ago. Thank you, Steve. Blessings from Jamaica. Thank you very much for tuning in. Sarr, Watkins or Salah, yeah, that's just been... Hi, Livramento is a single Gameweek player for a -4. Probably not. Thank you. Lots of love, Dylan. And by the way, Watkins or Mateta on free hit. Mateta. Transferring Marino or Martinelli? Marino. All right, let me just deal with the spammers. All right, bye-bye. All right, so even if you're on your way out, be sure to drop a like. Let's get this stream to 200. It'd be greatly appreciated. And also subscribe to the channel. We're getting very close towards 33,000. And the same goes for the deadline. We are literally seconds away. And this is my squad. It's just a question of Marmoush versus Saka. And because I'm not entirely sure about Saka starting both games, I think Marmoush will be my final captain. Otherwise, I'd be very happy to captain Bukayo Saka. So, yeah, that is pretty much it. We'll see how everything goes. And in terms of how things are looking, yeah, we're literally just 20 seconds away. And yeah, let's see if we can answer anything else very quickly. Thank you, Awali, for also moderating the chat. Good luck, Affair and Chase. Time to lock in. Exactly that. Only triple captain and free hit left. Yeah, triple captain now, Batman, and free hit in 34. But that's just my opinion. But there we go. It is locked in. Marmoush is my captain. Riot is between the sticks. I've got a double up in the Arsenal defence. I've also got Gavadio and Munoz. Rodgers, Sarr, Saka and Salah with Marmoush, Isak and Mateta up front. My bench has Verbruggen, Murphy, Milenkovic and Livramento. I really hope that doesn't outscore what I got on the bench boost last week. I've got the free hit, which I'll use in Blank Gameweek 34. So in a couple of days' time, I'll be providing a best free hit team video, potentially also a best wildcard squad, which could be in a separate video, or perhaps I merge them into one. And if you want to see a transfer tips podcast, then let me know in the live chat and in the comment section, and the team selection will always be headed your way. The same goes for future deadline streams. And if you also want to see a reaction stream, possibly tonight, then also make your feelings known by liking the video and also let me know in the live chat. Beto, Livramento, Robinson. Yeah, I mean, from those three, not great. Probably Robinson. Lynn says, having Areola, Isak, Nico Williams, and Burn, should I bench boost? I mean, it's a decent bench, to be fair. I think Burn is the one that kind of lets it down. I would say yes. Golded says, panicked and went with Konsa as the final change for Kirkes. Not the best double, but it's a double, and I couldn't trust Bradley to start. I think Bradley will start. I did cover the update by Arne Slot earlier, and he said that Trent could be available, but not to start. He's not going to start just yet. But in Gameweek 34, that could be a different story. So yeah, good luck MMK. And also, yeah, just the Parky says KDB starts. So good news there for those that invested. Triple captain Saka or bench boost with a Bruggen, Nico Williams, Elanga, and Mikalenko. I would have just triple captain Saka there. Also, do you think Foden to Bruno makes sense? It does make sense, but Foden is actually back and he could start one game in Double Gameweek 33. And Bruno could be rested because Amorim suggested that United could rotate and play some youngsters. Ultimately, I think selling Foden is fine, but I go to a different midfielder like Saka or Kevin De Bruyne, who apparently does start. The same goes for Savio. So yeah, that is confirmed, it seems. Would he do Livramento to Diaz on a bench boost for a -4? Yeah, probably, assuming the rest of your bench looks very strong. I'm not a big fan of Ruben Diaz, though. You played free hit? No. It's a non-free hit team. I played the free hit. No, I haven't played it. I'm playing it probably after this deadline has passed because it's going to happen in 34. There's no two ways about it. So, yeah, all my chips have been used. I used the bench boost last week in 32. And for the upcoming deadline, it will be the free hit. Thank you, Ignacio. Grande Dilan. Gracias, like always, mate. Thank you very much. Any leaks if Saka starts? No. No leaks. I only watched a bit of United versus Lyon. Not much of it. I'm not really interested in Europa League, to be honest. I'm just watched Champions League and, yeah, mainly Arsenal. KDB and Savio start. Yep. We'll see the confirmation of that very soon, but it does seem like that is the case. And the lineups are out in, what, 12 minutes time, I think it is. So YouTube can be a bit buggy with the Super Chat goals, but yeah, I think... Obviously, Paredes, big up to you for gifting 10 memberships, and we did get a few super chats in the building. But I'll be here for a few minutes more, and then we'll be wrapping up. Like I said before, drop a like, even if you are on your way out. It would be greatly appreciated. Thank you, Mina. Thank you, Dylan, for the great live, as always. Good luck to you, man. Likewise to you, and hopefully we get a lot of points and green arrows. K-Man says, should I have moved Livramento to Konate or Bradley? If you're bench boosting, then yes. Otherwise, you could just bench Livramento and have a decent back free, so to speak. But Bradley, I think, will start in 33 and probably 34, but long term it will be Trent going back into that starting 11. Konate is the slightly safer pick. Adil says, I ended up doing Livramento to Ruben Diaz with my second free transfer on the bench boost. Yeah, that's fair. I'm not a big fan of Diaz, but it's an upgrade on Livramento this week. Lau says, I cannot buy Saliba until AM is over. Who should I buy for now? 6.7 million left in the bank. Well, the team is done. The deadline is gone, so that is pretty much it. Who should I buy for now? I mean, Gavardio, if you don't have him already, but I highly doubt that. Yeah, De Bruyne apparently starts extra. I'll go for my FPL Challenge team again very soon. Just got in. Can't afford Saka. What's your thoughts on Marino? Well, Christian, the deadline is over. It was at 1:30 PM. So that's 4 minutes ago now. But yeah, Marino was 8th in my captaincy list for Gameweek 33. I think he might be benched in one game, but if he plays up front, he's going to get some good returns. He's been doing very well for Arsenal recently. Thank you, Punjabi. Big shout out goes to you as well. I went Saka captain. Hopefully you do very well then, saying game of 7. What does a typical Saturday, Sunday look like for you? It just depends, but sometimes I go out with just some mates just to watch some football. I'll watch some shows and films. If not, I might play some video games. And if not, yeah, I'm just out and about doing different stuff, but it just depends. Reading a book, listen to music, preparing graphics for videos, and of course, if I do a reaction stream, when I get back home, I'll then, have that set up and then go live for a few hours. Easy says, my newest wildcard team. Interesting. Quite surprised by some of those picks, but I'm sure it's well thought out. Bench boost 36, this newest team, but my money doesn't have It's not enough to buy expensive defenders. Yeah, just be a bit careful because we don't have the full picture of Double Gameweek Phase 6 yet. So once the FA Cup final happens, well, what should I say? Yeah, so once we get to a few weeks' time, we will have a clearer picture of the double in Phase 6 and obviously the FA Cup finalists for Phase 7. So that could maybe damage the bench boost a little bit for you. But, of course, these things can always happen. Yeah, it is possible, a deal. Thank you, Barbary. It's always a pleasure. And let's now go to FPL Challenge, which I think will remain the same. I might captain Saka here, just in case. And yeah, De Bruyne is very tempting as well. Just a shame I can't go to free midfielders because then I'd have Saka, De Bruyne and Salah in this team. But yeah, it's just not going to happen here. Lau says, I mean, for the next game week, 34 and 35, I have Gavardio, Munoz, Milinkovic, Nuri and Livramento. Yeah, it's kind of awkward because I think one of the best defenders for 34 would be a Newcastle option like Cher, Livramento, etc. But for 35, not so much. And of course, you've got Livramento already. I'd probably lean towards Van Dijk. Yeah, I think Van Dijk. But then, didn't you say, if I go back to your other message, yeah, 6.7, you can afford him. Yeah, Van Dijk for me. Thank you, Adil. Yes, if there is a reaction stream, of course, like I said, if people want to see it, then let me know. Like the video, subscribe, let me know in the live chat and all that good stuff. But yeah, it is possible that there will be one tonight. It has been a while since I've done a reaction stream. Otherwise, possibly tomorrow. But I will be preparing content for Game Week 34 and having my eye on all the football and seeing what other options we can go for. Hey, Dylan, I can only keep 3 of these to bench free Blank Game Week 34. And the other 3 will be sold for Blank Gameweek 34 players. Which 3 would you hold sell from Munoz, Gavardio, Saka, KDB, Sarr, Marmoush? I think Marmoush, Saka, and possibly Gavardio keep, and the rest are sellable. Forgot to ask you, Dylan, how was it for you in the last UCL round? Kind of disappointing, to be fair. I'm still around the same rank, basically, but I was expecting better. I went from Jorginho to De Bruyne to Mateta as a captain. I don't know anymore. Jorginho? Yeah, Jorginho's he's out. He's not going to play. So yeah, we'll probably see him available in a couple of weeks' time, but he is a must-sell for me. Bournemouth also potentially get double 36. Yeah, I remember you said that earlier. That's why I bought Evanesson and Hausen. But as you say, it's possible. It's a potential double game week. It's not set in stone. I really wanted to captain Saka. Was really close to changing last minute. Yeah, I was very tempted myself. If he does start both games, I might end up regretting not captaining Saka. Yeah, the holiday was great, Richard. I was there for a week. Still got UCL fantasy content done. I obviously did the stream as well for FPL last time out. And when I got back, I did a double recording and upload yesterday. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I was at the beach basically every single day. And yeah, I'd like to be there right now. Buy Van Dijk and sell which defender? I don't know who you have. Lau, unless you said it earlier, did you? All right, you did. Gavardio, Munoz, Milinkovic, and Livramento. I think Munoz is sellable after Game Week 33, so I wouldn't mind selling him, actually. Thanks as always for the stream and answering our questions, Dylan. Great job. Thank you, JDE78. Sandri says, didn't make any moves. 4 transfers next week. Let's see. That's a good position to be in without the free hit. Yeah, Manu, I'm not going to go through that yet. I will leave that for the best free hit team video where I can give it more thought, and my team selection will almost certainly cover it as well with an updated version because I'll be activating the free hit next week. Yeah, hey, Garassi, I can't lie. I mean, I didn't sell him, and I did recommend in the UCL Fantasy Deadline stream to a lot of people to keep Garassi because I didn't see a massive difference between him and the replacements like Mbappe, Vinicius, and Lautaro Martinez, and he ended up being the best one. So there you go. Went for Saka to get some small gain if he performs. Also have Miles, Lewis, Skelly, and Marino. Probably wildcard after next week. I like that Marino punt and hopefully starts both games. But I also, to be honest with Arsenal, the main focus should be on the Champions League and avoiding any unnecessary injuries or possible risks. Thank you as well, John David. Matthias says, if you're playing free here, is it worth starting building your team from today to avoid prices going up? If you're absolutely sure about using a free hit or wildcard, I always recommend using it early if you can. When I wildcarded a couple of weeks ago, I actually did it very late on because I was still you know, quite tempted to wildcard in 31 instead, but then things happen. I ended up wildcarding a week earlier. But yeah, I think the answer to your question is yes. Easy says Real Madrid talked about remontada, but United are the ones that got the piece of remontada. I mean, look, it was a great comeback by United, but Lyon were down to 10 men, and it was a chaotic end to the game. I do think the French side should have done much better to kind of see that out. I'm not sure what they were doing there, but yeah, obviously at Old Trafford, maybe not in recent years, but when they get going, it can be a very difficult place to go to. Chelsea Blues 99 says, hi, had 2 free transfers, have triple City, Palace and Arsenal and no Villa. Both transfers wasted, sadly missed the deadline. Plan was to replace Savio Murphy with Villa players and downgrade Saliba to Kivior. Yeah, well, Savio is starting apparently, so that's good news for you. And with Murphy with a Villa player, it's not like a massive upgrade, I think. Rodgers maybe is worth the transfer this week, but Murphy looks better, of course, for 34. And then afterwards, both of them are benchable. Thank you, Lau. Thank you, Dylan, for answering all my questions. You're the best. You really made me fall in love with FPL and UCL Fantasy. Well, that's great to hear. I certainly don't make myself fall in love with FPL and UCL Fantasy, that's for sure. You sometimes get sick and tired of them, but these things do happen. Thank you very much for the kind words and all the best for Double Gameweek 33. Thank you, Manu, as well. Nice weekend and good luck. Arsenal to go in for a new target man, number 9, Maguire. Never. Absolutely never. Dylan, which are the probable championship teams upgrading to the Premier League next season? Well, Leeds are one of them. Burnley with their clean sheet records and only 12 goals conceded and stuff like that, but they'll probably concede that amount in the first 10 games of the Premier League, if not the first 5. No offense to them. But yeah, then it's the playoff final that we'll have in a month's time. So currently you've got Sheffield United, Sunderland, Bristol and Coventry in those playoff positions. But yeah, Leeds and Burnley. Yeah, I think Sheffield United have a great chance, but obviously they have to go through to the semi-final and the final and get that done. But those are the 3 most likely at the moment. May as well use Maguire as a forward, better than any current striker at United, which isn't saying much, but yeah. Maguire was always overhated in my opinion, but of course 8 million was way too much money, and you know, on multiple occasions United wanted to sell him, and now maybe he's becoming a fan favourite, but let's see. I think Bilbao will be slightly tough for them, but I did say at the beginning of this season, I look at the Europa League and I think it's very weak, so United and Spurs have a great chance of winning it, in my opinion. Last time I went Saka captain was Game Week 7 and he got me 32 points. Hopefully you can repeat that. That's a great score. I've had bad luck with Saka this season in UCL Fantasy and FPL. Of course, he scored against Real Madrid recently, but he also missed a penalty, and when I didn't have him in the Champions League, he would get 18 pointers and stuff like that. And of course, in FPL, when I bought him, yeah, he ended up getting injured shortly afterwards with a few blanks just beforehand. Sheffield United for FPL manager to target players against them next season. Yeah, if they do go up, we'll wait and see how they fare in the playoffs, which they'll almost certainly get, but things do change. I mean, the thing is with newly promoted clubs, it does seem there's a big gulf now between championship teams and the Premier League, which is not great to see, unfortunately. But thank you to those that have tuned in today. It has been a blast talking to you for the past couple of hours. If you haven't already, smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. Let's try to get this stream to as many likes as possible, and let's keep on pushing towards new goals like 33,000 subscribers. We are getting the lineups very soon, in fact, in just a couple of seconds' time. So maybe I'll go through them very quickly and then wrap up. But yeah, this will draw to a close very soon. I also want to give a shout out, actually, to some members, and be sure to check out the links in the description, like my X, Instagram and Blue Sky, Dylan RCM, my Patreon and the championships for early access to my videos, amongst many other perks. And once more, big shout out to Paredes and Napstars for gifting so many memberships in the recent deadline streams for UCL Fantasy and FPL. There's also my Spotify, FPL League, FPL Challenge, all of that can be found in the description. But let's actually go and read out some names. So big up to Aldo Victoria, to Lorientu, Notre Dame, Daniel Zaremba, Stephen Reed, Doran Masumi, Matt Steen, Alex Orloff, Luis Alexander Perella, Rodrigo Urias, and Federico Caliso. But the list does not end there, that's for sure. We have even more members and patrons to talk about. If I can actually get them up here, that'd be great. I did have the members up recently. All right, so we've got even more to shout out now after the recent memberships, but big up to Man of the Match 10, to Ashwin, Abhishek, to Ralph, Omar Badler, Bence, JT, Festus, to Sojataya, Magnus, Terry McLarney, Audrey, also to Jesma, Raunak, Same, Rafal, Linus, Beliref, Ayushi, Simon Lawrence, to WS4, Is it? Yeah, 23, Geo69, Nehal, Markichu. I'm not sure why YouTube keeps on like refreshing the thing. It's very, very strange how they do it. But yeah, it basically makes it almost impossible for me to read out the names. But yeah, also to Jazabi, Simon Spears, Keith, Ulysses United, to That Air. Also to John Granquist, he's another one. I mean, there's so many members here. But yeah, unfortunately, YouTube is very, very annoying sometimes. It literally doesn't let me scroll a page as you usually can do. Let's see if I can get away with this, and maybe that way I can... Does that actually work? Or... Yeah. Let me know if there were any drop frames just now, because I'm basically switching between laptops and stuff like that just to be able to read the memberships. Unfortunately, it can be very iffy. All right, so hopefully that's all good. And I can read out the rest of the memberships here. So... yeah, so Audrey as well. Is it actually going to happen there as well? I find it very weird how it keeps on scrolling up and down like this. But yeah, Bestie, Rishi. Yeah, sorry, but it literally is so frustrating to read this out. George Popescu, Gabriel Fernandez. Ahmed, Miguel Mario 8, Ventislav. Big up to all of you. Ahmed, MMK, Mark, Chromec. Yeah, literally, this is almost impossible to go through. It's so weird. Also to Ben Dada, I think it is. No, Dan Dada. You see, I can't even read out the names. OK, Unruly DMV. These are two separate people. Eric Garcia, Michael Blackburn. Yeah. Dombrew 1. Lorientu. Drawing Dead. Lloyd Smith. Matic. FPL No Name. A10. Let's Talk Vinyl. NS. Eric Garcia. Michael. Ali. Kev Mack, David, Carlo. Yeah, I think that's everyone. But yeah, YouTube have made it very, very awkward for me to read out these names. I'm not sure what they're doing. But yeah, big up to all of you. Thank you very much. And let's go through some lineups before wrapping things up. So, yeah, Man City's lineup is confirmed. And it looks like the leaks were correct, even though they were after the deadline. So let's now go to Man City's lineup first and foremost. So yeah, Ortega's in goal, Nunes, Diaz, Gavardio, O'Reilly, Nico Gonzalez, Gundogan, De Bruyne, Savio, Bernardo, and Marmoush. So Foden there is on the bench. The same goes for Kusanov and Rico Lewis. So yeah, Savio, for those that kept, might be very happy with it. But let's see if he also starts the second game of Double Gameweek 33. So let's get up the other lineups as well. And let's see. So there's a lot of lineups to get through. So this might take a little while. I'll try to be as swift as possible. So let's go to the home side this time. Everton. Pickford, O'Brien, Tarkovsky, Branthwaite, Mikalenko, Idrissa Gana Gay, Garner, Decore, Harrison, Indai, and Broya. Let's also go to Brentford and Brighton. Okay. Let's get Brentford's up first. So Flecken, Coyote, Collins, Vandenberg, Lewis Potter, Norgard, Yamaluk, Damsgaard, Schade, Visser, and Mbumo. Let's also bring up Brighton very quickly. And then we've got two more games to cover. So yeah, for Brighton, Verbruggen, Dunk, Joao Pedro, Minter, Welbeck, Baleba, Vifa, Van Heck, Estupinian, O'Reilly, and Hinselwood. Let's now go to Crystal Palace and Bournemouth. So we'll start off with Crystal Palace, and no real surprises despite their 5-0 loss against Newcastle. So Henderson in goal, Munoz, Richards, Lacroix, Gay, Mitchell, Wharton, Hughes, Sarr, Eze, and Mateta. Let's now go to Bournemouth and see if Justin Kluivert is back in the lineup. Of course, I sold him very recently. And yes, he is. Justin Kluivert has returned. So, Kepa Arrizabalaga, Howson, Kirkes, Scott, Evanesson, Dango, Adams, Smith, Kluivert, Semenyo, and Zabarnyi, who is back from suspension, I believe. Yeah, so a lot of key players back. Actually, I think in this case it might have been an injury. I need to double check that. But now, last but not least, Southampton and, well, maybe Southampton is last, but West Ham as well. So I'm going to show you Southampton's lineup as well briefly. I'm pretty sure none of us have any Southampton assets. So Ramsdale, Walker-Peters, Harwood-Bellis, Bednarek, Stevens, Manning, Ogochoku, Downs, Fernandez, Kamaldeen, and Oenochu, who is back for the Saints. And I did butcher one of those names. Couldn't care less, as Ole Gunnar Solskjaer says. And West Ham. And that concludes a lot of different lineups here. Fulkrug is back. After so many quotes and updates that we've gotten in the last couple of weeks, he is finally available. So Areola, Soufal, Kilman, Todibo, Emerson, Ward-Prowse, Soler, Paqueta, Kudus, Bowen, and Fulkrug. Wan-Bissaka isn't even on the bench. So yeah, those that kept him will be kind of fuming because Graham Potter gave a positive update about him in the press conference yesterday, which I did cover on this channel. So that's it. That's all the lineups you need to know about. And yeah, let's now go back to FPL Challenge for a little bit and then wrap up. But there could be a few changes and tweaks here. I am considering De Bruyne in the midfield. But Saka is my captain here and Marmoush in my normal FPL team. So that is about it. Thank you to those that liked the video, subscribed, commented, and all that good stuff. Let's go for some last few questions here. Cheers, bro. Best of luck. Likewise there, FPL Kevy. Am I going to regret keeping Livramento instead of going Konate? I think Konate would have been a worthwhile transfer, yeah. For a hit, then it becomes very close. But I think Konate is worth the free move. I was going to captain Saka in 13, but went Cunha, and I lost 35 points from that. That many points? Jesus. If Spurs and United go Europa League final, will both teams double in 36? Well, Spurs could double anyway in 36 with Aston Villa. If they reach the FA Cup final, then yeah, Spurs will almost certainly double in 36. Relief if Savio starts. Thanks, Dylan. Good luck. Saka, 2 points last game, unlucky. Yeah, well, I only just bought Saka in, so hopefully he can do the business. But yeah, are you activating the free hit instantly? Yeah, probably later on. There's no rush, but before the prices change during the early hours of the morning, that is the plan. Yeah, no AWB Insane Gamer. Good shout. Marmoush starts. Great stream, Dylan. Thank you, Safair. Twisted Park, he puts his predictions. Yeah, I've kind of gone similar in most of them. You've gone for a City clean sheet, which is quite interesting. But yeah, some of our scorelines like Arsenal 2-0 is exactly the same. Yeah, Django Unchained. Yeah, I know, but it just, I don't know why. Because I saw the J, and then I saw Dango. That got me confused momentarily. I captain KDB, pray for me. All the best, Dave. I think that's a good punt, to say the least. I think all lineup teams play early already out. Yep, and they've all been covered now. I know you said that earlier. Will I still have 2 free transfers of Gameweek 35 if I free hit next week? Yes. The same goes for the wild card. Yeah, Zabarnyi played 45 minutes, you're right. But I'm just not sure if he came back from an injury or a suspension. That's what I was kind of wondering. I bought AWB just because not enough money and I benched him for the 3rd time in a row. Well, yeah, so that's not really too bad then. Obviously, you wildcarded this week anyway, didn't you? FPL Challenge, Raya, Saliba, Salah, Marmoush, Captain, Mateta. Interesting stuff. I'm never buying Phil Foden in FPL again. I used to be trolled by him big time, but in UCL Fantasy do very well for me. So it was a double-edged sword. I think only last season did I buy Phil Foden and actually, you know, gain a lot from it, like the hat-trick against Brentford. When is he going to score his next hat-trick or, you know, next brace? It's going to be a long time, you could say. But he is still a top-quality player. Thank you, Richard. Thanks for a great stream as always, Dylan. Best of luck for the game week, mate. Likewise, Richard. Always a pleasure to have you on board. Twisted says, might change City now. I don't have a double. Fair enough, I get that. But yeah, all the predictions, graphics, lineups, FPL transfers, my FPL challenge squad, all have been covered. And we can continue the discussion in the Discord server, on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky. All those links can be found in the description. And be sure to drop a like on your way out and subscribe. It would be greatly appreciated. This has almost been a 3-hour deadline stream. It has been a while. And yeah, I'm probably just too tired. I'm tripping on my own words, you could say. But yeah, all those links can be found in that description. And keep your eyes peeled for more UCL Fantasy and FPL content. And there could be a reaction stream either tonight or tomorrow. If you want to see that, then make your feelings be known. Thank you, Matthias, as well. Great streams, Dylan. First year on FPL, and you got me very enthusiastic. Next season, I will also play UCL Fantasy and follow your UCL videos. That's great to hear. And yeah, I'm surprised people are saying that, but it's good to hear. It really is. And hopefully you end this season very strongly. And also, you know, take some learnings and improve for next season as well. That is obviously the aim. And these videos hopefully do help a little bit with that. And with UCL Fantasy, trust me, you might have even more fun with that game than you do with FPL. I certainly do. Thank you, Dave. Great stream as always, mate. All the best. Likewise. 5 double gimmick players this game week. Yeah, good luck, Easy. Hopefully it does go well for you. I'm quite happy with my setup. Only 2 single gimmick players in my starting 11 in Salah and Isak. We'll see how it goes with Marmoush captain and Saka as the vice. My free transfer replacing Cole Palmer finally in double gimmick 33. Take care, enjoy the football. I'll see you very soon for those UCL Fantasy and FPL videos on live streams, and there could be one tonight or tomorrow. I'll see you then.